home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They got him again!
Sixers.
Bang! It's good! Ball game!
And Flyers.
Tipped in front of the net!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
It is 2nd down and 8. Again, the 3 tight ends. This time, back, pass, into the end zone. Touchdown. It goes straight to Kmet. And this is really getting out of hand. A 28-yard touchdown pass from Williams to tight end Cole Kmet.
We're not changing the play call, but we will evaluate everything, and that's what this weekend we'll have another little mini bye, and I think that's the another short week that leads to a long weekend where we'll evaluate everything. But again, like I said, after that, it's never just about one person, right? You win as a team, you lose as a team, and you try to evaluate everything, win, lose, or draw, and get better from it.
That was Nick Sirianni. You heard the game on 97.3 ESPN on Black Friday, and it was a Black Friday. The Eagles lose to the Bears, and now we've got concern. The Sports Bash is live at the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. We're about to give you our Eagles First Reaction, brought to you by First Bank of Sea Isle City. This season, score big with First Bank of Sea Isle. From savings to mortgages, we're on your team, helping you reach the end zone. First Bank of Sea Isle City, your hometown bank, your winning play. Mike Hill, Pete G's my on-site producer. Josh Henning is back in the Ocean Casino Resort studios. You out there, we're live on the X platform, YouTube. You can watch the show there, and, of course, on the radio at 97.3 ESPN. Well, I hate to predict that the Bears would win the game, but I did on Wednesday say I'm taking the Bears, and I have talked a lot about 2023, and the similarities of the teams are a little different. That team's defense was disastrous. This team's offense is disastrous. And the difference between 2023 and 2025 are that defense in 2023 couldn't stop a nosebleed. This defense is pretty good. However, they are starting to fall apart as well. And I'm not saying they're bad, but when they're on the field 80-plus plays, even this good defense can turn into a mediocre defense. They got torched again on the ground. Listen to this stat. This is the stat of the game. The Philadelphia Eagles defense gave up 183 yards on the ground. And you might say, no, Mike Gill, they gave up more. They gave up more yards on the ground. But they gave up 183 yards on the ground before contact. This is before either DeAndre Swift or Kyle Monangai, hardly Walter freaking Payton back there, got touched. Their defense is starting to wear down, and their defense is starting to feel like they are running and losing the battle of attrition here. Listen, I don't think their defense stinks, but people who acted like 2023 was not the same because the defense was so good, I never said it was about the defense. I said it was about the morale of the team. And the morale of this team is low. The morale of this team is a complete and utter lack of confidence. They don't have confidence in the play caller. They're losing confidence in the offensive scheme. And quite frankly, you talk about scheme, Ben Johnson took Vince Fangio's lunch money and stuffed them in a locker. He out-schemed him all day long. He was one step ahead of Vic Fangio all day long. When you look at 183 yards before contact, your team is not prepared for what's coming. You think about this. Kyle Monangai and Kyle Swift became the first Bears duo to reach 100 yards in the same game since 1985 when Walter Payton and Matt Suhey did it for the Bears. That's the last time a Bears duo had over 100 yards in the same game. This isn't some elusive running attack. Yes, they run some things that you're watching them. You're like, look at this offense. This is fun. You got guys pulling and moving. They do this against everybody. They don't run for this many yards. The Eagles' defense hung in there as long as they could. They bend it, and then they finally broke. And you wonder how much longer. I talked about 2 weeks ago, that Lions game. I said it felt like the 49er game, and it didn't turn out that way. They won that game. Kudos to them for that. But everything after is starting to feel more and more like 2023, and it's because the offense can't hold up their end of the bargain, and now the defense can't either. 609-403-0973. Poll question we'll answer throughout the show today. We'll update the poll at 2:45. You can vote at 973 ESPN. We look back at the Eagles' Black Friday fallout, and the fallout is, do you believe the Eagles can still win the Super Bowl? Simple. Yes, no. There's no thinking in this one. It's a yes or no question. Yes or no, do you still believe the Eagles can win the Super Bowl? Text 609-403-0973. Let us know on the text board, 609-403-0973. There's a lot of things in this game that we could certainly kind of try to remember back to Friday. But what I'm remembering right now is that I've defended Kevin Patullo for the most part. Look, I said I wouldn't have hired him. I don't think it was the right decision to bring him in. I don't think he had enough experience. I would have gone with a more experienced play caller. So all of that being said, even though I wouldn't have hired him, I don't think he's 100% at fault as the offensive coordinator. Now, that being said, I also think the team has lost confidence in him. I think Jalen Hurts has lost confidence in him. I think A.J. Brown and the rest of this team has lost confidence in the play caller. And when you have, listen, yesterday if you're watching the Steelers game, you heard Steeler fans saying, fire Tomlin. You hear that for the head coach. How many times do you hear fire the coordinator being rained down in a stadium? You heard fire Kevin on Friday. Fire Kevin. That's bad. And what's worse is the players have to keep coming out week in and week out and defend the guy when they don't want to. And that causes friction. The problem they have is they don't have an in-house answer. They don't have another play caller in the building. But I would say this. You already know that he is in over his head. So either the next guy's in over his head or maybe he could pull a rabbit out of his hat. I mean, if you're Nick Sirianni, do you have to step in here and say, listen, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to call the plays. But my gosh, I just might have to because my team is on the precipice of basically falling apart for the second time in my tenure. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Kevin Patullo, there was a sign. Did you see this, Pete? You like this stuff, right?
I did.
You like the crossing broad type of irrelevant
just gossip, just
material.
Dirt sheets.
They had a picture on, what highway was it this morning?
It's probably.
Was it like on Patterson Avenue?
Yeah, Patterson Avenue, yeah.
And it's like a road sign of detour from Monday till Friday from 3 to 7, find another route. They had one of those signs lit up on Patterson Avenue that said, fire Kevin Patullo. I mean, we're at that point. Sometimes we've had guys stand out front the NovaCare with a sheet that might say, fire, Andy, or run the ball.
Run the ball. That was the famous one, right?
How many times have you seen people go out of their way to say, fire the offensive coordinator? That's where we're at. And it's gotten to a point where now former players are chiming in. Jason Avant on the Eagles postgame show Friday night after the game was over. Now, I know Jason. Jason's a nice guy. he's not a hot taker. He's not a guy that yearns to, like, debate Stephen A. Smith and just be some blowbag and look like a complete jackass just to debate with Stephen A. Like, he says what he means because he's a classy guy. He's certainly a guy who knows the game. But even Jason Avant after the game, a guy who played, they don't like to call out players or coaches if they don't have to. But it got too much for Jason Avant. Here's what he said on Black Friday.
I'm not saying you fire Kevin Patullo, but they have to change the play calling. You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. Not saying that you fire him, but there's people in the organization. There's people in the organization that has experienced play calling, and they need a shot to be able to see if they can turn it around. And it may be their formula that gets it on the right page. Doesn't mean that he doesn't run certain aspects of the offensive meeting. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have input in the plays that go in. But someone else that's calling the players and having a sense of what's going on in the game, that part needs to change. I'm not calling for a man to be fired, but I am calling for them to try something different. The city deserves that. Your team deserves that, because I'm tired of A.J. Brown and others and lying to us, because you can tell on their face that they're disappointed too.
The city deserves it. The team deserves it. And he said something at the end there that I think stands out. As a former player, he's reading the players that they have now, and he knows they ain't buying in. What they're saying, they don't believe. He's saying, you don't have to fire the guy. I agree. You don't have to fire Kevin Patullo. You just say, listen, you're not calling the plays anymore, man. Maybe send him upstairs. He could sit up in the booth. But you got to figure something out here. You can't let it get to where it got in 2023. Right now, you're at a breaking point. You're at a breaking point right now. You cannot let it seesaw to that direction. There is something that Sirianni said that I do agree with. You have a little mini bye here because you played on Friday. You have a couple extra days to figure this to bleep out. But part of figuring it out might have to be, we got to have somebody else here. Now, the problem is they went down this road in 2023. They fired the defensive coordinator. Now, they fired him. They got rid of him. Actually, they didn't fire him. He got reassigned, right? Wasn't he still on the staff?
Yeah, he was reassigned into another role, and they made Matt Patricia the play caller, but Desai was part of the game planning still.
Yeah, that didn't go so well.
By the way, they also moved Desai to the box,
Which
and put Matt Patricia on the sideline, which made things worse, too.
Which, when you say Desai is part of the game planning stuff, that's basically grabbing pencils and pieces of paper.
Stop.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
They can say that. That's all lip service.
Well,
we
listen,
all know that.
he had a role on this team that won the Super Bowl. Whatever role that was, go back to that role.
Who,
That's your
Desai?
role. Yes. No.
Desai was not on the coaching staff.
not Desai. Patullo.
I mean Patullo. Okay.
Yeah. Britton Covey was on our show a couple, at the Super Bowl. We
he
played
got
that
smoked
audio
the other day, by the way. Although he didn't fumble, he did get rocked. Saw that.
I thought that was a bad decision for him to pick that punt up, but he did field it cleanly, thankfully, because I thought that thing. But he said the audio we played a couple of weeks ago from Britton Covey, it's an eerie. We keep going back to that Covey conversation, and it's because he said so many things that enter right now. And he said that when they fired the coordinator, he's like, I talked to a lot of the guys that play defense, and that had a major effect on those guys. So does that enter anybody's mind with this whole offensive situation? Do you have that Covey bite? Okay. But he said in that bite that he talked to some of the guys that played defense that season, and that coordinator change really messed with them. Now, they had to go learn a whole new defense. It wasn't like they just kept Sean Desai's playbook, which is what I imagine what would happen if a new play caller came in. See, this is why I don't know that firing or changing Patullo will do all that much, because I don't think the offense is changing. I think it's the same group of plays, just somebody different calling them.
Yeah. I mean, there is the part where guys need to be held accountable. And whether that's a change in the play caller or something similar to that, you can't just keep doing the same thing every week and expecting a different result.
Well, how many, you just heard what Avant had to say.
Yeah,
how many
totally
people
agree
heard that and it was like, that's my initial thought was, listen, I battled with Nuggets on Wednesday about, is it Hurts, is it Petula? And I think Hurts has a role in
He was awful.
We haven't Hurts has a role in
He
this.
was awful on Friday.
He was not good. He, missed the throw on Smith. We all saw that. That's a third down. That's a big play.
It's a touchdown.
It's a touchdown, possibly. He missed Goddard on that same play, who's wide open. The whole 2-point conversion thing. I wouldn't have gone for 2 on that play. I would have scored the touchdown, kicked the extra point, and then you live to try to score the extra point. I know it's half a dozen one or the other, but I still want to have a chance to know that I have a chance to still tie the game up. You don't hit that 2-point conversion, now you know you're still 2 points down. It's idiocy.
That tells me that Sirianni's even losing it. Like, even he's kind of questioning.
And then they're trying to make it like the analytics say you got to go for 2. You want to know ahead of time. So, come on,
bogus.
dude. That's why. That there is why every answer of the analytics is why you don't use them as Bible, because of that decision right now. If you're a player, do you want to know that you're still 1 score down with 3 minutes left, or do you want to say, now I'm 2 score downs and we just cost ourselves the game?
Yeah, the risk-reward, 9-8-7, does not make any sense.
That being said, if you go back to that 2-point conversion play, go look in the seam on the right side. There's a man wide open. He's Dallas Goedert. Wide open. He's right in front of Jalen Hurts, too. And Hurts didn't see him because he started his progression all the way to the right, and he just zoned in on one guy, and he never got back to the middle of the field. So this is why, when I was battling with Nuggets on Wednesday's show, it was, listen, I don't think Jalen Hurts is executing the plays the way they're supposed to be executed. He's running these plays the way that he wants to run them. But it's really 220, 221. Whatever side of the coin you're on here, bad call or Jalen doesn't run it the way it's supposed to be run. Whatever it is, Jalen doesn't trust this guy.
And you can't fire Jalen.
And you can't fire Jalen.
In the middle of the season, you can't do that. So
609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. I do see a lot of text messages coming in here. Mike Clarence from Delaware, the Eagles' main problem is it's not a true leader on the team. They are segregated and distant from each other. All you see is me, and they don't play as a team at all, which is interesting, Clarence, because they won the Super Bowl with essentially the same group of guys, right? I mean, offensively, you're telling me Kellen Moore was like the ultimate leader, and that's the guy they're missing? I mean, Kellen Moore is the one guy that's not here, and Mekhi Becton.
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence, though, that the only time the Eagles have had successes with certain people in the building with Sirianni, he has been very coordinator dependent. When they've struggled, it was, you mentioned, 2023 and now 2025. So maybe Kellen Moore was more than we realized.
I think he was more than they realized in terms of the play caller, and their offense wasn't great last year, but it was better than what they are now. Listen, we've been complaining about this offense in the entire Sirianni era. The whole Sirianni era, we have been complaining about this offense, that it's not what it should be. Look, if I'm Kevin Petula and I have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, and I can only score 15 points against that defense, I look at myself in the mirror and I say, you know what? I'm a big boy here. I got to put my big boy pants on and put in my resignation because I suck at this job.
And how is it that the 27th ranked defense, CJGJ, he knows what's coming? The 27th ranked defense knows how predictable the Eagles' offense was.
He knew it, and he said it after the game. I mean, he was on that speakeasy show with LaShawn McCoy and Emmanuel Acho. I'm sure if you're on social media, you've seen the bites by now. Them saying, hey, was their offense predictable? And he just gave him a big old laugh and a wink. Essentially, yeah, we knew everything that's coming with this team. I mean, if you're watching the game, you know what's coming. You know, if A.J. Brown's lined up to the outside, he's doing this. If he's moved inside of the slot, he's running this. They run the same stuff almost all the time.
And it's also the running game, too. It's the fact that they know what's coming. Saquon had 2 good runs the entire game. They're both on the same drive in the third quarter that led to the Hurts fumble. That's the only time Saquon got going. It was the only 2 times they didn't run the same 3 plays they run all day and every day.
Oh, at 1st and 10, Saquon run up right up the middle.
Yeah.
Jeff in Ocean
Power
City says, hey, Mike, this team is heading towards a first-round playoff exit at home. Great event on Wednesday at Maynard's. I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, Jeff, I wanted to open the show with how fun it was at Maynard's and how many people. My God, that place was jamming. That was actually, in the history of 99 bottles, I believe we had a record turnout.
Wow, really?
Yeah, well, we had a record turnout, and we, quadrupled the waiting list. The waiting list was the longest waiting list that we ever had. It was one of the biggest events that we've ever done in terms of how many people entered and then how many people showed. There were very few spots on the waiting list, but the people that signed up for the waiting list, it was a mob scene in there. It was an awesome time. Loved every second of it. Congratulations to all the winners. I know the Sixer game, for the people who won Sixers tickets, is tomorrow night. That was an awful game by the Sixers last night, by the way. It was actually fun, but the way they lost that game is sickening. We don't have much time for that, though, today.
At least everybody played. I mean, Embiid, Maxey, George.
First time that those 3 guys all played together.
Yeah.
Mike, I was working Friday and didn't get to watch the game, but where is Carter and Bond on defense? Let's answer that question first. Carter and Jordan Davis had a terrible game. In fact, it might have been one of the worst games Jordan Davis has ever played. He was terrible. They
got pushed around.
They got pushed around. But I'll tell you what else. He talked about Bond. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter got their ass kicked. The outside edge rushers, lack of contain, lining up wrong, bad fundamentals, poor technique. It was almost as if they didn't practice all week long.
Phillips got blew up by a wide receiver. I forget who it was.
And you know who did not play on Black Friday, who now you got to start asking questions why he wasn't playing?
Jahad Campbell.
Jahad Campbell. Why wasn't he on the field?
0 snaps, by the way. And his snaps have been going down and down and down and down. And, quite frankly, I don't know that Jahad Campbell has made much of a difference in – Nakobe Dean – their run defense has gotten better with Nakobe.
Yeah, is this turning in just to a redshirt year for Jahad Campbell? Probably.
It appears. Cole from LBI also adds he doesn't think the lack of running game is all on Patullo, and that makes his job infinitely harder. That's what I've been saying, Cole. It's hard to be a coordinator when half your playbook is taken away from you because you can't run the ball. But what Jason Avant said, do you guys agree with? 609-403-0973. Plus vote, do you believe the Eagles can still win the Super Bowl? Simple, yes or no. 609-403-0973. Let us know at 973-ESPN on the Twitter X platform. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Coming up, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, Grayson's Grades, Johnny Mack. You'll hear from Sirianni. That is our Eagles' first reaction, brought to you by First Bank of Sea Isle City. This season, score big with First Bank of Sea Isle. From savings to mortgages, we're on your team, helping you reach the end zone. First Bank of Sea Isle City, your hometown bank, your winning play. More Sports Bash live from the Fanatics Sportsbook.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
And it just keeps getting better.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We're live at the Fanatic Sportsbook, Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. You can watch UFC 223 here this Saturday night. Starts at 10 o'clock. Josh, you into that card?
A couple title fights on the card.
Are you into it? You going to watch it?
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
All right. They got it on here. Right here. Fanatic Sportsbook, Gallery, Bar Booking Games. Mike Gill, Sports Bash Live. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is here. We're going to get a lot of takes from him on everything that's happening. Saw Mike on Thanksgiving morning. Great game. Atlantic City
Good
beats
call
Holy
by you,
Spirit.
by the way.
Thanks, man.
Good call.
Atlantic City beats Holy Spirit for the first time in 7 years. Great crowd.
And Atlantic City Holy Spirit was one of them. And it's like only the games with, tradition, Phillipsburg Eastern, Manasquan Wall, Atlantic City Holy Spirit, Millville Vineland, I think it is. First of all, I was stunned by the results of Friday's game. I have to admit, I thought the Eagles were going to go in at the link and take care of business. I didn't think the Chicago Bears were ready to come in and win a big playoff game on the road. And I was stunned by the way they did it, by basically just dominating the Eagles on the offensive and defensive line. So I was, as I'm sure many people were, stunned by what the Eagles did. And now, however, all is not lost because of what happened the rest of the weekend. I don't want to sound like Aaron Boone and use a phrase that he used to infuriate the New York media and many Yankee fans, but everything that the Eagles want to achieve, including the number one seed, is still right in front of them. Yes, great point, Mike, because here's what you have. You have an Eagles offense that has struggled for the past 4, 5, 6 weeks. And now you have the defense inability to stop the run on against the Bears. And remember, this is the way the Giants beat the Eagles up at the Meadowlands early in the season, by dominating the offensive defensive lines. So, Sir Isaac Newton, smartest guy of all time, first rule of physics and sports, bodies in motion tend to stay in motion unless acted upon by an external force. The Eagles are going to continue down this path unless they can come up with a force, be it external, internal, to sort of change the path that they are on. Now, is that firing a play caller? Is that personnel changes? Who knows? But the Eagles have to change something. What that is, I don't know. Right. Well, I think they're going to try to. I have a hard time believing that the Eagles are going to just sit back and say, we're just going to continue on as if nothing has happened, business as usual. We're not going to change anything. They're going to try and fix this because, Mike, again, I go back to what I said before. The season is still in front of them. And most importantly, there's no version of the 2024 Eagles this season. There's no dominating team in the NFC or the AFC. So if the Eagles can fix their problems and get hot at the right time, they are more than capable of going to the Super Bowl. Now, the play caller is an easy one, right? You can't fire the players, so you're not going to fire the head coach, so you're changing a system. Is that going to have any impact? You're absolutely right. It didn't happen when they changed the defensive coordinator. And the next question is, well, if he's not calling the plays, who is? It's just a very peculiar situation. It just looks, when you watch them play, Mike, it just seems like something's off. I mean, I don't want to be the body language doctor or the facial expression doctor, but Jalen Hurts just seems like weird on the sidelines, or it just seems like the Eagles are just not right. Barkley doesn't look right. Devontae Smith doesn't look right. Dallas Goedert doesn't look right. The defense doesn't look right. Jalen Hurts, he's riding a bicycle. He's not. He's on the sidelines. He's got this expression on his face. I can't put my finger on it except to say that something's wrong. Something just doesn't seem right with the Eagles right now. And can they change it? I don't know. I think they're going to try, though. Yeah, I mean, you hear stuff about Sirianni. You hear stuff about, reports, Derek Gunn talking about Jalen Hurts. And then you look back at the history of this team and you look at Sirianni's success. I mean, the guy is arguably the most successful coach in Philadelphia Eagles history, or often one of the best starts as a coach in Philadelphia Eagles history. He's coached the team to a Super Bowl title. The quarterback is a Super Bowl MVP. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. You look at these guys and say, how can we be questioning Jalen Hurts? How can we be questioning Sirianni? Shouldn't we have more faith in them? Forget about the fans. Shouldn't the people inside that organization have more faith in the coach and the quarterback? However, something appears to be wrong, and it appears to be in every other type of deal, basically on, who's calling the plays and stuff like that. And I still say, Jalen Hurts has a track record of success now in the NFL, a track record of success for 4 or 5 years. Can you go back and do film work and call the plays that have worked during his 4 and 5 years? It just seems to me inconceivable that a team with this sort of offensive talent, now you want to tell me the offensive line is struggling? Okay, but still, the offense should be better than it is right now. Scoring 15 points a game, that's not going to cut it in the NFL in 2025. Yeah. Well, yeah, something's got to happen. Something's got to change because, again, what I see is just there guys disappear for the games. Like, did Devontae Smith play on Friday? Because he didn't seem to be out there all that much for me. Now, I know he was out there all the time, but they just don't seem to be utilizing all their weapons the way they have in the past. Dallas Goedert had a quiet game. Now, Saquon Barkley's had a quiet season. You actually have people screaming for Tank Bigsby carries. That's where we've gotten to it at this point. A guy that the Jaguars let go is all of a sudden the answer to the problems. It just seems something's wrong. It just seems the vibe, the karma, the feeling around the team, something is wrong. And that is very much what it kind of felt like when they were 10-1 and collapsed that year. It's kind of heading down that same path. And again, I say bodies in motion stay in motion unless something changes that trajectory. And I don't know whether it's play caller, personnel, but the Eagles got to figure out something because they've got, a big game Monday night. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of tough for me to go there. I think they've got, a big enough lead right now. Ask me on Friday after Dallas plays Detroit on Thursday night, because if Dallas wins on Thursday night against Detroit, maybe we can have a different conversation on Friday. But, Dallas goes to Detroit and loses, and the Eagles beat a Chargers team who might not have their quarterback, and the Eagles win in L.A. when they probably will have more Eagles fans in SoFi Stadium than Charger fans on Monday night. So, again, we go week to week with this stuff. But as of right now, I think the Eagles, are safe. They're going to be the division winner. But again, ask me on Friday afternoon after the Dallas-Detroit game Thursday night. Yeah, that's a loser leaves town a game, basically, Yeah, I mean, the guy did everything else, practically sold soft drinks in the stand, manned the concession stand, did everything he could. He's playing, what is he? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. I agree, but the guy is, I mean, is the guy going to last to the new year? I mean, he's playing 40 minutes a night. He's playing his heart out. He's upped his game. When I look at that game last night, and again, tremendously entertaining game, great game. I'm watching the overtime. I'm into it. Here we go, second overtime. All of a sudden, Embiid and Paul George aren't out there for the second overtime. Mike, I tweeted this out last night. You cannot operate a basketball team like this. You cannot, without any consistency or chemistry, guys showing up, guys not showing up, guys playing the first overtime, then minute restrictions. They can't play the second overtime. I know it's the NBA. I know it's only November, but this is no recipe for success. The Sixers are headed down the wrong path. I don't know what I'm hoping that Paul George will eventually leave his minute restriction behind and he can actually play the second overtime. But this Embiid situation, boy, it just, I don't know what the answer is. And boy, when he's out there in that fourth quarter too, he just does not look good in that fourth quarter in crunch time, basically. Yeah. Yeah. Again, Nick Nurse, I mean, it's not fair to Nick Nurse. It's not fair to Tyrese Maxey. It's not fair to any of the other players that are involved in the situation, because I come back to this and say you're a player on the 76ers, and all of a sudden you score. Like Quentin Grimes, a perfect example. Sometimes he starts, sometimes he's on the floor to close, sometimes he's not. He has played well for them this season, but yet he has to adjust his role every day according to who's healthy, who's not, who's on a minute restriction, who's not. Player like that is going to get fed up and say, well, why am I good enough to play 35 minutes on a Tuesday, but on Wednesday I can only play 20 minutes? I mean, you cannot run a franchise like this. And the Sixers got off to a good start. That start has been wasted now. I think they're going to struggle to make the playoffs. It's just not a recipe for success playing like they play every day. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I'm watching the game. I'm into the game. It's second overtime period. All of a sudden, Embiid and Paul George are gone from the game. It's ridiculous.
coming out and saying, yes, they obviously, otherwise I'm not dumb enough to not play those guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right. And
well, and Mike, the reporting on Saturday was that Embiid was out. He was out for the game, and then all of a sudden he's playing the game. I mean, when I saw that he was in the lineup, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it because, it's a football Sunday. I was doing other things yesterday, and I said, wait a second, Embiid's playing?
to play those minutes, they're going to all of a sudden they show up at the arena, and it's not like they're going to play. He's going to play 100%. It's like always questionable, always going to go through pregame warm-up. Then we're going to judge. If tip-off is at 7 o'clock, we're going to make a decision at 6:30 whether he can play or not, and we're going to do this. For 82 games during the season, again, this is not a recipe for success. Basketball is a game based on chemistry, consistency, having a feeling of where your teammates are on the court, and there's no way to build that with the way the Sixers are doing it. Now, I can't blame the Sixers for this because it's the predicament they're in. I don't know what the answer is for Embiid. I mean, you can't trade him, because of the contract, and I don't know who would take him anyway. But it's just they have to figure out an answer to this Embiid thing going forward, or they're just going to be, one step up, two steps back. The rest of the season.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. We've got Eagles and the Chargers. That's on Monday night, and it's a busy week here as, of course, the Giants play tonight against the Patriots. Patriots looking to hold on to the 1 seed. Giants looking to hold on to the number 1 overall pick. How about that for the 5th year in a row? All right, Mike, we will catch up on Wednesday, man.
All right. We'll see you down the road. Thank you.
All right. We'll update the poll question on the other side as well. It is the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. I was thinking about this the other day. The Giants have been bad. They had that one playoff year like 3 or 4 years ago with Daniel Jones and Saquon. They've been bad for like a decade now. Right?
Yeah, they've had a top pick for the last several years, and that still hasn't helped them.
No. I got a funny story here. You ready for this one? You weren't on this wasn't a Monday or Wednesday. Tony's watching on YouTube. He says, Mike, a great story. He was at the Matt Rife show Saturday night at the Wells Fargo, now Xfinity Mobile Arena. He says, I'm outside the bathroom, and standing next to me is the Sixers coach that looks like a basset hound.
Oh, I know who he's talking about. Yeah, the assistant coach.
Yeah, we were talking about this last week, and I was like, yeah, that guy that looks like a basset hound, and Josh didn't know who I was talking about. He sends me a picture of a different coach. I said, what are you talking about?
No. That's not the whole story. The whole story is that you're talking about the coaches. The coach is always next to Nick Nurse.
That looks like a basset hound.
Yeah. I know exactly who he's talking about.
Exactly.
But you didn't say basset hound the first time we had the conversation.
No. That's not true. The guy is so noticeable that he looks like a basset hound. It's the first thing I said. I said, that coach said it looks like a basset hound. You see him on TV all the time. And you gave me some guy that I've never seen on TV before.
Which is the guy who I always see on TV. He's always talking to the players.
Does that guy look like a basset hound?
No, but my point was that I didn't know who Gil was talking about because
the guy that looks like the basset hound. I mean, do you not know what a basset hound looks like? You can go down that route. That guy's on TV
all the time.
I've never seen the guy that you showed me.
And I see the guy that I showed you all the time.
You're telling me you watch the game and never see that guy that looks like the basset hound.
Apparently, you notice it before you notice anything else.
All right, PG, when you watch a Sixers game, okay?
Yep.
The guy that looks like a basset hound, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, the guy, he's right next to Nick Nurse.
Right next to him.
Every game,
he's right next to him. The guy you showed me, I've never seen. You're telling me the guy you showed me sits right next to Nick Nurse?
I never said he sits
Then
next
how
to
the
Nick
hell
Nurse.
would you see him on the television?
Because I've explained this multiple times. He's the guy who's
sounds
always
made
talking
up.
to the
It's
players.
this guy, Brian Gates, right?
Yes, exactly.
Of course it is.
I mean, you got to be a complete idiot to not know what I'm talking about when I say a guy looks at Bassett down and then send me the picture of the guy that he sent me.
Congratulations, I'm a complete idiot.
You've made it far in life being a complete idiot, my friend. That's a funny text message, though, by Tony Skins watching on YouTube. Yeah, Brian Gates. He looks like a Basset Hound. He's all over he's on TV more than Nurse Nurses.
Yeah.
There's times when I think he coaches the team. He's on TV so much. I got to show you the guy that he sent me.
I can't wait to see
He
this.
looks like a Basset Hound. He sends, oh, you mean this guy? And I thought there's no way he sends me a picture of any other guy other than the guy that looks like a Basset Hound. And I'll show you the picture of the guy he sends me. Looks like Sidney Lowe. You know who Sidney Lowe is?
Yes.
He used to coach the T-Wolves.
Yeah.
That's who the guy looked like that he sends me.
Now we know
Not
that.
a Basset Hound.
Now we know that Brian Gates fancies himself with some, comedians.
Matt Rife, yeah.
Yeah, Matt Rife, yeah.
All right, more Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, end of hour number 1. We're live at the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. And Mike McGarry's appearance, as always, brought to you by Broadleys Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Serving South Jersey since 1911, keeping your home comfort game day ready this season. Where'd you watch the game on Friday?
I watched it at my house.
Little Black Friday, you stayed home?
Yeah, stayed home, watched it at my house, got a pizza.
Nice.
I did not boo.
The Black Friday game at 3 o'clock was interesting. It's a weird time, but I actually, on a Sunday, I'm not going out to watch the game. But on a Friday, since I didn't have to, be here to do the show on Monday, I was like, you know what, 3 o'clock, go out for a little bit.
And you did do that.
I did. Me and a couple buddies, my mother came out, my girlfriend. We got a pizza, watched the game, and we were all disappointed. Not with the beer, not with the location, and not with the pizza. Just the Eagles. Scott Grayson's grades are next.
Hurts stamps the right foot. He's back. He's looking. He fires, and it is incomplete. He missed Devontae Smith, who was cutting in, and the ball went to his left. Pass was off target, and we will get the field goal attempt as Jake Elliott comes on.
There you go. Missed throw. Jalen Hurts. Bunch of them did not play well. Not Jalen's best game. All a part of why they lost this game. Jalen plays better. Maybe they win the game. Jalen plays better. Maybe we're not having this conversation today. Listen, I'm a big fan of the highest paid guy gets the blame. When the Sixers lose, it's Joel Embiid's fault. Whether it's his fault or not, it's his fault. You're the best player on the team. You're the highest paid guy on the team. That's the way it works. And Jalen Hurts, you always get most of the blame. You're the quarterback. You have plays to make, and you're not making them. But Kevin Patullo, obviously a lot of people fired up about him today. Is he the guy that we should be putting most of our attention to today? Let's see what the grades say. Scott Grayson's grades are posted after every Eagles game at 97.3 ESPN. Me now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN with Grayson's grades. And Grayson's grades are brought to you by the Bridgeton Auto Mall. Are you ready to score your next big drive? Head straight for the end zone at Bridgeton Auto Mall. What's up, Scott Grayson? Happy Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you too, Mike.
Well, you're grading these things on Black Friday, and it's probably painful to have to watch that game and then think about, hey, who played well and who didn't? Because generally, I'm looking through the F column here, and the two guys I just brought up, right before you came on, we played the cut from Merrill Reese when, it's the play that really signifies the whole game. Third down, Hurts makes a throw. It's to Devontae Smith. They're not on the same page. There's Goddard's open. Quite frankly, Devontae's open. He just doesn't make a good throw here. You gave Jalen Hurts an F. This I don't know how many times over the years we've done this, how many Fs Jalen Hurts has gotten, but how would you kind of characterize this game for him?
Well, really, I think the whole week was not good for him. One thing that he has done well throughout the season, and when he did well last year when they went on a run and won the Super Bowl, was he didn't turn the ball over. But on Friday, he turned it over twice. An interception, and then also the fumble that got taken away on the tush push. And those are two big turnovers that kept points from being on the board at all for that team. And it just, when they get anything going, they need to sustain something, and they've had trouble getting anything going. But they were given the opportunity down there to on the tush push that they would have, you believe, at least gotten 3 points on that drive, if not more. And they came away with nothing. So I just look at what Jalen Hurts is doing, and I just think that, I'm one who's pretty vocally raising their hand saying I think a change needs to be made at the play caller position. But it's only because it's the easiest change to make. You're not going to bench Jalen Hurts. You're not going to bench A.J. Brown. You're not going to bench Saquon Barkley. You're not going to bench Jordan Mailata or Cam Jurgens. So what can you do? You can ignite a spark by changing the guy calling the plays to send a message to everybody else that they're not doing their jobs. Jalen, in my opinion, right now is not doing his.
And why I'm not pushing back on you, I do want to reference, we had Britton Covey on at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You were there with me, and we played the audio on the show a couple weeks ago when things started to go downhill a little bit, and the similarities between 2023. And he said when they fired the defensive coordinator, that caused problems to the defense. They said it was very difficult to deal with, and the defense never recovered. Is there some concern that if they change the play caller or remove Kevin Patullo, they removed Desai, they didn't fire him, they basically just reassigned him. Is there any concern that the offense never recovers because they have to go through a whole new training, or you just have to take your shot no matter what?
I think if I'm Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, and I sat down after that Black Friday game, and Jeffrey said to me, Scott, Howie, how are you going to try to fix this offense? Is it remain with the status quo or to try something else? And I think if they remain with the status quo, I don't know that this team wins maybe more than one playoff game, the way that they're going as an offense right now. So I think you have to ask yourself, if your goal is to win the Super Bowl, can you do it the way this offense is being run right now? And I don't think you can. So to me, the
ironically,
option would be to make
Ironically, that season, we were here at Ocean Casino, and they were playing Seattle on a Monday night when they made – wasn't that when they made the change before the Seattle game?
I think you're right, yeah.
And they play the Chargers on a Monday night. That was with 4 weeks left in the season. There are 5 weeks left in the season, but it is a Monday night game. That year they played back-to-back Monday nights because Monday happened to be Christmas. So they played Seattle on Monday, then Christmas night against the Giants. It was the one game they did win the rest of the season there. But that firing happened after a 33-13 thrashing by Dallas, and then they played Monday night and lost that game against Seattle, in a game that the defense actually played pretty well in. They lost 20-17. There's so many eerie similarities where you look back and wonder if a coordinator change that hurt them that year will be the reason they don't do it this time.
It could be. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? Because they had the opportunity here with a long week. This is when you wouldn't do it on a short week, which is why it didn't happen before Chicago. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it now, because the rest of the season, you're looking at a short week then after the Monday night game. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. If it doesn't happen, they've decided they're riding this all the way through with where it's at, and they're going to try to fix it that way. I just think that I know what happened last time, and I thought about that. It didn't work last time. But you have to ask yourself, I think the right question to someone who says, like me, to make the change, who are you changing them with? Because I don't know that Nick didn't exactly crush it when he was calling plays before he started having an offensive coordinator. And then I think you go back and you say, well, how are they in this mess? Well, when you win the Super Bowl and you can't go out and find a replacement until the coaching cycle is completely done, every other new coach has already picked out an offensive coordinator for themselves. So the Eagles really had to make the best choice of what was left.
Yeah, I do agree with that to some extent, but I will push back a little bit. There were some veterans. I mean, you could have got a guy like a Frank Reich or even a Doug Peterson who seemingly was interested in the job. And that's the route I think they need to go, Scott. This is where I think they messed up. They need to find their Vic Fangio of offense, where 100%. That guy doesn't want to go. He doesn't need to be a head coach anymore. He's already been a head coach. He's got two. Both Reich and Peterson have been a head coach twice. Are they going to get a third bite of the apple? So you're not as worried. Like, if Patullo did work out, let's say he was great, he leaves. He gets a job and he leaves. So you're back to square one. So why you don't not hire Patullo if you thought he was the most qualified because he might leave? He didn't have any experience. So you go with a guy who's got more experience and is not looking to leave. That's where I think they totally bungled this thing.
I agree, because the one thing that everybody says is Jalen Hurts is dealing with a new offensive coordinator year after year after year after year.
And he's going to have another one next year.
They're not wrong. You're right. It could be another one next year. So I think that is a problem. And I think if I'm the Eagles, I'm looking to try to rectify that in some way. And that's where I agree with you. Your question. I just don't know that, given the way Doug Peterson exited with the management that is in the front office, I don't know that that's where they would want to go. Now, Frank Reich, I'm totally open to that. I'm open to Doug, but I don't know that Jeffrey and Howie are.
Maybe not, but my point is there were probably guys who were like long-time coordinators who maybe used to be a head coach somewhere that, aren't in the league right now, that maybe were looking to get back in the league or something to that effect. And, I don't really remember who was available, who wasn't, because you're right. By that time, there's a lot of guys. But generally, the top coordinators, they're getting head coaching jobs. And then, you're kind of going through that group of guys who are looking to be offensive coordinators. You're telling me that there wasn't a guy who had been a coordinator and also a former head coach? Because sometimes those guys don't kind of get jobs again because it's like, I was a head coach. I don't want to go back to be a coordinator quite yet. And then you kind of find that, I feel like that guy's out there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, every now and then I've seen little rumblings about a potential Brian Dable.
Yeah.
Who coached with Jalen Hurts back in college. So there's a guy like that. And he was just a head coach. It didn't go well. I don't know that he's looking to run right back out the door for that opportunity. And I don't think one would come his way for a few years. So there's that. But I think, Mike, to me, the biggest thing that is when you look at what Brian Johnson's offense looked like with the Bears on Friday, It reminded me of what Kellen Moore had done. There's creativity. There is motion. There is a plan. There's blocking schemes that set things up on the ground. There's reasons for what they're doing. I mean, what I'm watching, it just almost looks like, Patullo's sitting there and he spins a wheel and whatever it lands on is what he calls. There's no flow. There's no rhyme or reason to what they're doing, and there's got to be accountability. And where I hold Nick accountable, and where I'm really frustrated in that regard is, and it's unfortunate that Patullo gets some of the blame for this, but the discipline isn't there, the focus isn't there, the penalties they're taking pre-snap. Are you kidding me? I mean, when AJ Brown gets called for a false start, I mean it's rule number one.
On the second play of the game.
Right. And your job as a receiver is to look in there and you don't move until the ball is snapped. You watch for the ball to go. There's no excuse for a receiver to get a false start. And so the number of penalties, the type of penalties that are happening are not effort penalties. They're lack of effort penalties. And that's where I point to the head coach for that. But again, everything always kind of funnels down, I think, to Kevin Patullo because, we see what's going on and we see that there's no rhythm and no plan and no success moving down the field. And, I just don't understand. There's no trying to do something different. Like every time this team does try to go with a hurry up, I think they find a little bit of success. Go to it again.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, and listen, I'm also not in the boat that like Patullo is a complete buffoon and he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing.
I don't think that either. But I think it's the one place where you can make a change.
It to me is whatever he runs is not a good fit for Jalen. Jalen doesn't trust him. Jalen doesn't believe in him. I don't think the rest of the guys believe in him. I think they've lost confidence in him. And I don't know if that's him, the combination of him working with Hurts, it's just not working. Because,
I completely agree.
Hurts got to get his guy in Brian Johnson a couple of years ago, and everybody was like, that didn't work out. That offense was better than this offense. Right? I mean, that offense was better.
When you just look at the simple fact that when you rattle off the talent, you've got an A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith at receiver. And I'll give you Jahan Dotson as a number 3 is probably one of the best number 3 receivers out there. You just don't throw the ball. Dallas Goedert, great tight end. Not getting the ball lately either, which is beyond me. You've got Saquon Barkley in the backfield. Tank Bigsby has done pretty well. And this offensive line was supposed to be one of the best in the league. So have they all forgotten how to play the game? Or are they just not being used properly? Yeah. And I think it's more the latter than the first. And
all right,
you got to fix it.
You also gave Nick an F, and I do want to get into Nick a little bit here because he's as polarizing as a coach as Hurts is as the quarterback. Here's the MVP of the league of the Super Bowl. He's been to the Super Bowl twice. He's won the Super Bowl in terms of Jalen. Nick Sirianni has been to the playoffs every single year as a head coach. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. And here we are questioning him as a leader and whether or not he's the right coach. And it's like, how do we – and now I agree he gets an F for the game. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying there are people who have lost confidence in him that think that he can't coach, never thought he could coach. He is such a weird dynamic in this whole thing. You can't just win the Super Bowl and have the level of sustained success that they have had with him as the head coach if he's a complete idiot.
Correct. And here's where I think I break Nick down like this. I think during the week, Nick is usually really good. I think he motivates these guys behind the scenes. I think he gets through to them. They have a great chemistry at that facility, usually. And I think that he's a reason why. In game, I think he can keep his guys motivated and going. Where I'm struggling with him right now is, there's a time when you feel the train starting to get a little bit off the tracks that you got to bring it back on. And I think it's okay at that point as a head coach to hold some players accountable and call them out. You don't have to call them out by name, but clearly this team is not playing well. And I think it deserves being called out for, whether it's position groups. Hey, our offensive line is not playing to the level that we expect. They'll tell you that. We realize that. We've got to fix it. But there's no accountability held in public. I don't see how you can come out after that game and give a full-throated support of Kevin Patullo. He kind of followed it up with, we'll reevaluate everything. But he's still calling play. I think just even coming out and just saying that we're going to reevaluate everything here, it's not good. at least puts people on a little bit of a hot seat within your own locker room. As the head coach, I think you have that right.
Do you think
he is? He just doesn't execute in that regard.
Well, let's be honest here with this situation. Scott Grayson, Fox 29, Grayson's grades. If they're going to change the play caller, this is not a Nick decision almost. I mean, if Howie and Jeffrey, right? If Howie and Jeffrey come down there and they say, Nick, you're going to change the play caller, or we're going to change something else, he's going to have to make that decision. And do we think it gets to that point that Howie or Jeffrey have to step in here? Because Nick said we're not changing the play caller. And then we've heard these things before where it was like, we're not doing anything, we're not making changes, and then they changed the defensive coordinator. It almost seems eerily similar, right?
That's the first thing I thought of after the game when Nick said that about Petulo. I thought, yeah, you may say there's not a change, but when the two guys up there, the guy who owns the team and the guy who's put the team together that he gave you the keys to, when they decide that, you know what, we need to make a change, you're going to make a change. And so what he'll do is he'll try to spin it like he, over the weekend, reevaluated everything, quote, in air quotes, right? And this was something that they felt needed to be done. He'll never say that it was Howie or Jeffrey Lurie, I don't think. But yes, behind the scenes, that's what would happen. And I think over the weekend, Jeffrey Lurie, one thing I think he does really well is not make knee-jerk reactions to things. He will take some time, and he will think it through. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had a meeting over the weekend, him and Howie, and then if they needed to involve Nick. And if it were to happen, that's how I think it would happen. And then we'd come out and we'll probably find out tomorrow that there was a change, made in terms of play caller. Either that or you got to do something different. Or even just like, I would even be okay with, hey, we're going to move Kevin Petulo up to the box instead of being on the sidelines to let him see things a little bit differently and see if that can maybe help, generate some momentum with the play calling. Even that would be different. Because, you feel like you're banging your head in the wall here. I mean, like the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. Well, you're not going to get different results unless you make something different. Even him up in the booth would be different, and it shows me and everybody else trying to do something.
Yeah, I think a stat that stands out, I don't see any F's to these guys, but the Bears finished with 183 yards before contact. I mean, that's just basically getting dusted. You're getting blown off the ball. You are just not competing at the front. And I'm looking at the D category. You went defensive line, and that stat right there kind of shows you that the defensive line had a terrible day.
I graded the defense in my mind. I felt a little bad for them. Granted, during the game, watching it, it was like, this is amazing. I mean, they're getting blown up at the line. They're giving up all these yards to two different running backs, and the Bears were controlling the game. But the thought here is, how many 3-and-outs? I mean, as soon as that defense had gotten to the bench, gotten a quick drink, and put their helmet down and took their seat, they were having to grab the helmet, get right back up, and be ready to go out there because the offense couldn't get a first down. They were on the field for 40 minutes of that game. 2/3. I have a hard time expecting them to be perfect when they're getting the offense the ball, but then they're having to go right back out there because the Eagles can't keep the ball for any time. So that's the one caveat. That being said, I thought tackling was horrendous. I thought that, even at the linebacker level, they weren't making the tackles, which is why those guys were able to get a lot of rushing yards. As you said, yards before contact.
Yeah.
That defensive line was just getting – it was rare that you see the Eagles get beat in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And that's
Scott, at halftime of the game, Chicago had run 47 plays to your 17. All right,
the time of
possession – and the time of possession in the first half was 21 for the Bears, 9 for Philadelphia. The total yards on the ground, 142 to 26. I mean, it was just a complete domination at the front, right where you're talking about. So you gave a D to the defensive line, and I think you're valid in saying, look, you're running 47 plays, 80-some plays. I think was the end of the game. I think it was 81 to 50-something. But
it was, yeah.
But I guess you got to wonder. Everybody that says that not 2023, that defense was so bad that year, not that this defense is so bad, but you're wondering if they're running out of gas a little bit because they have so much pressure on them to not give up anything.
Yeah. In a game like that, again, on a short week after, it wasn't any better the second half against Dallas, right? Because they gave up 24 unanswered points in that game, most of it in the second half. So within a period of 5 days, how many plays, that would be interesting to look at, how many they played the defense on Sunday and then had to come out and play again on Friday. It wears you down. You're right. And you only have so many guys that you can keep active out there and run out there and try to stay out there. Now, that being said, right, if they want to get off the field, they've got to stop on and win first down and then start putting the Bears into some tough spots. They were playing third and short a lot. If they even got to third down, half the time they were getting first downs on second down. It's not like you can absolve the defense, but I have a little bit. Look, the defense won you the 2 games before that. How many times you want to ask the defense to go out there and play so well that they're going to win the game when your offense can't put up more than 10 points, something like that? I mean,
totally agree.
And so I'm squarely looking at this offense and saying if the Eagles still want to reach the goals that they have, the offense has got to change and be better. I have faith in this defense still to get the job done. And I totally have confidence in Vic Fangio to make the adjustments needed.
That said, I thought Fangio had a tough day at the office.
Well, but he's not out there making the tackles. He's not out there trying to win the blocks at the line of scrimmage. I thought Jalen Carter played an uninspired game. Jalen Phillips seemed to not have the kind of success he's been having. At an individual level, it seemed like those guys lost a lot of those individual battles. Now,
they look like a team they just look like a team. Now, listen, it's hard to say that the score's 10-3. You're in the game. Your offense isn't doing anything. I get all that. But the way they were running the ball, 183 before contact, it just looked like they weren't ready to, make an adjustment to say, hey, look, we can't stop the run. We got to start, putting more in the box here. We got to do something. They looked like they were just poor technique, out of position, uninspired all day long on that defensive side of the ball. It's amazing to me that the score was 10-3 for as long as it was.
Well, and that's where I say the defense was, even though they were bending, they were not breaking, and they were keeping you in the game. But I thought Al Michaels made a great point during the broadcast when he said when it was 10-3, he's like, it feels like 21-3, and I couldn't have agreed more. It felt like that one score was impossible to get. And with you in the sense I didn't understand why Vic didn't start bringing a safety down to the box more frequently, trying to force the Bears into throwing situations because you're just putting numbers up there to try to help those guys along the front. Obviously they were not winning their battles and they needed some help in that box. It really took too long, in my opinion, until Vic did do that. And what he did, they beat him over the top with that Cole Kmet touchdown. That really kind of put the game away. But,
yeah,
it's hard to blame Vic, I feel, when the guys were not winning their battles at all.
How about an F to the analytics for going for 2 on that play? And let's hear what you had to say here.
In the moment, I hated the decision.
Okay.
I would rather stay in the game and know that I'm one possession away.
Sure.
But when I listened to Nick's thoughts on why he did it, and I heard some other players, and I think it was J.J. Watt and some other guys, debating it, when they say, I want to know what I need. You need 2 scores. Make it, I think, a little bit, you're going to coach that differently than you would if you got it and you knew you only needed the 1. Or if you didn't and you need the 1, you need the 2-pointer at that point too. I'm not hating it.
I don't understand though. Okay, I want to know what I need, but I only have I don't have enough time to know what I need. I need to know that my players are still engaged and believe they have a shot to win the game. When you don't make that 2-point conversion and you need 2 possessions with 3 minutes left, you're out of time. So if I kick the extra point, I still only need 1 possession to win that game with 3 minutes left. That's a mental thing. And then, by the way, the Bears have to coach differently because they know they have no margin for error to give you the ball back. They have margin for error if you still need 2 scores.
I'm okay with it if you feel as this is where you've got to trust Nick, right? If he feels that for whatever reason, maybe the Bears were a little tired and they might have had an advantage to run. Obviously, they didn't. They didn't convert. And the play they called, I thought, was questionable too. I understood the analytics of it and the idea of it. Again, I also understand the idea of making it a one-score game and putting a little bit of pressure on the Bears to have to possess the ball and not give it back for fear that they could ultimately tie the game. I sway more towards that. I'm just saying, day and age with analytics playing the role it does, I also understand the thought of, I want to know right now, do I need 2 possessions or 1? And we went with it. I'm not going to go out there and I feel like there's plenty more I could grill Nick about than that.
All right, well, you can check out the grades and everything he said about Nick and Kevin and Jalen. They all got Fs. Check them out over at 973ESPN.com for this week's edition of Grayson's Grades, brought to you by Bridgeton Auto Mall. Head straight for the end zone at Bridgeton Auto Mall. All right, Scott, man, we'll catch up with you. Monday night game next week, so we'll do Grayson's Grades on Tuesday.
You got it. Sounds good.
All right, there you go. Scott Grayson, everybody, and Grayson's Grades. All right, when we come back, you heard from Grayson talking about Petula there. When we come back, you're going to hear from Nick Sirianni and what he thought about that game now that he's had a couple days. Friday's the last time we heard from Nick. So now you'll hear what he has to say, that he's had a couple days to think about some things. Has he changed his mind about the play caller? Will there be changes? He said they will evaluate everything. When we come back, you'll hear from him. Did they evaluate and make any changes? Stick around. Nick Sirianni's press conference is next on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Sports Pass Live, 97.3 ESPN. Nick Sirianni has yet to step to the podium. I don't know what that means. Generally, I guess he's going over with the PR staff, questions that might be asked, how to answer them. Is there something else going on? He was scheduled to talk today at 3:15. It is now 3:34, and he is not at the podium. By the way, the Eagles' playoff scenarios, their NFC East magic number is 4. Any 4 wins plus Dallas losses, there are 10 games remaining between the two.
You know something? They're lucky that they haven't that they are already done playing Dallas. If they had to play with Dallas like they have to play Washington twice coming up,
yep,
that they'd be in trouble.
And by the way, Washington gave Denver fits last night. Washington's starting to get healthier. You saw McLaurin back last night.
That team that played last night would probably beat Philadelphia
right now. Well, think about it. Washington went to the NFC Championship game last year. They want to get you back. They hope to get healthy by the time they play those 2 games, and I guarantee you they want to play spoiler. Right?
Absolutely.
What do you think the first question of Nick is going to be? I know what my first question would be.
You said you wanted to reevaluate things over this little mini bye week. What did you get a chance to look at? Blah, blah, blah.
Correct.
Yada, yada. Yep.
Absolutely. That's the question, right? Nick, you said you wanted to reevaluate things. Are there any changes over the last 2 days that you can share with us?
Yeah. I mean,
can you share being the key word?
Well, there is some train of thought.
And you mentioned it, too, real quick. You mentioned it, too, during Scott's interview. As Jeffrey Lurie or Howie Roseman, have you talked to those 2 guys about the offense and what they think?
Well, there is a train of thought that, this could all go down on the plane ride out to L.A. where they basically, go out there, they make the decision, and bang, on Monday night you got a new play caller, because this is what happened the last time, essentially. You have those extra 2 days to kind of implement everything, and then you don't play till Monday night.
Keep it close to the vest. Don't let L.A. know anything until game time of who's calling the plays.
Yeah, they like to keep everything a little crazy like that. Guys, let's hit the text board real quick before Nick gets out here. Guys, didn't we miss an extra point right before? Yes, they did miss an extra point, and they missed a field goal.
And it was that point of the game where the defense was playing well. They had that Jalix Hunt interception. It was 10-9.
Well, they scored the touchdown.
Right.
They scored the touchdown and then got the interception, and you felt like, okay, here's the mo, and then they missed the extra point. You're like, oh, my gosh. All right, Nick Sirianni is up to the podium. Let's go to the Eagles head football coach, Nick Sirianni, right now.
Hey, Nick, kind of a big picture coaching question here. I know you've said in the past that when you build your offense, you do it around the players' strengths and weaknesses. I was wondering as a coach how you balance running something that's their strength versus doing something at times that might be their weakness, but it's what needs to be run against a certain look, and how you get them to buy into something like that.
Yeah, I feel like our players can do a lot of different things. We have a lot of strengths on the team, so we're able to do some different things because we got talented guys. But make no mistake about it, you always want to be doing the things that they do the best. Like if we asked them to do something we didn't think they could do, I think that I don't like, even though it might draw up well on paper against a certain team, there's different ways that you can attack, different looks, and so you're always thinking about what they do to do the best. That's why you're constantly evaluating the players. But like I said, we got talented guys that can do a lot of different things. But when you ask a guy to do something they can't do, or they might not be as good at, and it doesn't really matter how it draws up. So it is always a balance, but we're always trying to do the best thing schematically, and also always trying to do the best thing, that they do well.
We'll go to John and then Ruben Frank.
Hey, Nick. When last we talked, you said you'd be evaluating everything. What have those evaluations looked like, especially since you have more time with the coaches, I would presume, than the players? Any changes, or is it business as usual?
Yeah, again, I don't, I always want to be, answer your guys' question as much as I can. Obviously we're evaluating everything, and now you don't have as much time as you as you have in a normal bye week, but, it's a mini bye. And so, everything was being evaluated. We'll think about some different things that we want to do, as all over the place, scheme, everything. But I don't think it benefits us for me to share in particular what that is. Just know this: we want to get this thing fixed, more than anybody, right? We live it, breathe it, and involved in it every waking second of our lives. So that's what we're working on right now.
We'll go to Rube and then Tim McManus.
Hey, Nick, happy Thanksgiving and all that. We've asked you a lot about Kevin and the play calling position, and your answer has consistently been the blame is never on one person. But you did change play callers on offense in 21 and on defense in 23. So I'm just wondering, why is this situation different?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, I do believe that both of them are different scenarios. I know it was a change of play caller, but slightly different, particularly on the offensive side. And so, yeah, again, it isn't just one person. It's the ultimate team game. And so, like I said, we're working through everything. I have a lot of faith in all the players. I have a lot of faith in all the coaches. We gotta execute it better, and we gotta scheme it better. And they all can be true, and we gotta call it better. It's every area that we need to improve on. That's why we always say we look internally through all these things. And like I said to you guys, if all that's not gelling, to me, that's on me first. And it's my job to do whatever I need to do to help get it fixed, and that's what we're working on right now.
We'll go to Tim and then Dave Zangaro.
So just to clarify, Nick, Kevin still is the play caller?
Yeah.
Okay. In respect to Jalen, his rushing numbers are down. Is it related to the fact that he wanted to rush less this year?
We're always thinking about how to protect Jalen and make sure that he is healthy for the long haul. Different plans have different reasons and of why you run different things. And like I said, we'll do everything we need to do to help this offense get rolling. Jalen's talented and running the football. He's talented and also holding the backside. When he doesn't run the football. So a lot of different ways to do that. Again, always looking at everything and how we can improve.
We'll go to Dave and then Jeff McLean.
Nick, I'm sure you've heard the comparisons between this season and 2023. Not sure what you make of those, but when you think back to that 23 season, are there some lessons you take from it to avoid a similar outcome this year?
Yeah, I think that all the lessons, I think you saw a lot of that. The lessons we learned in 23 resulted in kind of what happened last year. So, of course, you always take lessons in everything of, win, lose, or draw. You're always constantly trying to learn and get better. Sometimes that sting of the loss, or like you said, the 2023 season has even more impact, which is why I'm grateful for adversity and looking for an opportunity to get better from the adversity. And I think that most definitely those have lasting lessons. Won't be specific about it. I have a very specific thoughts of and written down of exactly what we learned and how we learned it and what we did for that. And so, obviously that those lumps that you take, if you allow them to, can knock you down and keep you down, or those lumps that you take can, let you rise up above everything.
We'll go to McLean and then Brooks Kubina.
Hey, Nick, you mentioned about scheming things for what players do best. There was another example of Grant Calcaterra being asked to block a defensive end one-on-one. I know it was on the backside, but it blew up the play. We've seen this multiple times, and yet there he is doing it again. I'm wondering if that's the best use of Grant in that circumstance.
Yeah, on that play, and the one you're talking about, they obviously brought the nickel off the edge and kind of stunted the other guy down in there pretty far inside, which is going to be a tough block regardless of who's in right there. We got a lot of faith in Grant and the things that he can do. Like I said, it's always our job as coaches to first start them off in positions that they can succeed. That would have been a hard one and sometimes you got to draw it up sometimes it's drawn up, the loss is drawn up to execution. Sometimes the loss is drawn up to the scheme, and sometimes the loss is drawn up to you might have loved your scheme, but they did something that, made it really difficult to do. And I think that was the case right there. But like I said, have a lot of faith in him and what he can do. And he's been a part of a lot of winning football here. And he's been part of the reason why we've done a lot of good things here.
We'll go to Brooks and then Martin Frank.
Hey, Nick, you mentioned, the not just one person. I'm just curious from behind the scenes and the collaboration on offense, what are Scott Loeffler and Parks Frazier bringing to, you brought them in as well over the offseason to kind of help out with the offense. Where are they in the work of this? And, how is that process working?
Yeah, this is a team sport. That's not just on the field. That's in your collaboration for when you start to think about plays and how to coach it and how to attack. And so, of course, every guy is involved as we sit in there and go over the game planning. Excuse me. I know you asked particularly about Scott and about Parks, but Jason Michael and Jamal Singleton and Aaron Moorhead and Eric Dickerson and you name it. Everyone's in there talking through everything, and that's what you do. You got to have a guy that's leading the charge, but those coaches meetings are so valuable and how you kind of go through that, because you want everybody on the same page, so you go through it with everybody together, and naturally everyone's looking at it as a slightly different vantage point, and so everybody helps in those processes. It's just like saying, same deal, like, a practice squad guy, he's getting our guys ready on offense and defense to play the game this week. Like, every piece of a football organization is going to be important for the outcome, and for what you become as a football team. And that includes coaches, practice squad players, you name it.
We'll go to Martin and then Olivia Reiner.
Hey, Nick. I know you were kind of asked about this after the game, but now that you had a chance to review everything, what did you see in the run defense? I mean, in the 4 games before this, you guys have been really good against the run, and for the Bears to have 281 yards rushing, what kind of broke down, do you think?
Yeah, again, never just one thing that you get into, and obviously we're not going to say, hey, this is what hurt us or this is what we struggle with. I don't think that benefits us to talk through that. At the end of the day, though, fundamentals come into play. At the end of the day, having different things to help the guys out come into play. It's always going to be the same thing with that, and so we have, we got work to do on the practice field when we get back out there, and in the meeting rooms, as we're sitting in here right now, because even if the fundamentals, aren't done well, we look at ourselves as coaches and say, how do we, do that better? I know that's how the defensive coaches, when I met with them on the game, that's what they were thinking. How can I help get these guys better to accomplish what we're asking them to do? So it's not just like a scheme thing, and it's not just a fundamental thing. It's also how we think of it as coaches of how do we help them execute their fundamentals even better with the drills that we do and the looks, the different things, in the meeting room that we do with them.
Thanks.
We have time for 2 more, so we'll go to Olivia and finish with Zach.
Hey, Nick, I wanted to follow up on Tim's question about the design quarterback runs. How do you balance that kind of desire for self-preservation with also like, hey, this is something that, Jalen has been really good at throughout his career and has, been able to kind of unlock other aspects of the offense through his ability to run. How do you kind of weigh those 2 things into your decision whether or not to call more designed runs for the quarterback?
Yeah, good question. Again, you're always thinking first about, what the players do well and how do you keep them, especially with your quarterback, how do you make sure that you're keeping them safe on those? Because even when you think about those, like there are quarterback runs you can run that are a little more safe than another quarterback run, but it's still football and you still put a risk at, with every play, every snap that you take, and that's on a drop back too. But again, you look at the defenses, how you want to attack. You look at, like I said, what you do well, how to protect the guys, and you're just looking for the best way to go about that. And I don't think anybody wants to come out of a game with Jalen having 15 carries, designed carries. But again, we're looking at everything, and we'll see how that looks going forward.
We'll close out with Zach here.
Hey, good afternoon, Nick. Specifically, do you think this staff is creating schematic advantages on offense? And philosophically, do you think a schematic advantage is required to succeed on offense?
Yeah. Like I said, always as we go through game planning, we're always thinking about how we help guys do their jobs better, how we attack versus different looks, what you do well, what you don't do so well. That's done, but obviously as we think through it and look at it, we're hypercritical on ourselves as well and say to ourselves, well, we might have thought this was the best going in, but as we look at it, we have to change some things too. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. So we're hypercritical on ourselves, and we're looking for ways to help the guys more be able to execute better. And it always goes hand in hand right there. So what necessarily worked for us in the past doesn't always mean it's going to necessarily work for you in the future. And so that's what the weekend was about, of looking at ourselves first, because we're going to ask our players to look at themselves, and everyone looking internally. So right now, as far as your question, Zach, goes, of course, none of us are doing a good enough job right now. We all have to look internally and get better. And when I say that, hopefully you guys always understand that I'm looking at myself very first, and I'm looking at the coaches to do the same thing, and obviously the players to do the same thing. And I'd say hard on the coaches to make sure they're thinking about that as well, because I think that when you get into these adversities that you're in, you can band together as a football team, or you can get into a blame world. And if we're all looking internally, that's what it's all about. And so, we all got to do better. And that's just not, that's everybody.
There's Nick Sirianni, and obviously the big conversation centering around the play caller and whether or not they would make that change. He kind of danced around it the first time and made it kind of feel like, there could be a change coming. And then there was a follow-up that asked for clarity. Just to be clear, are you changing the play caller? And he said, no, we are not.
Yet. I think it could be a little situation of the long flight across the country. Got a lot of time to think about it.
Well, our friend John McMullen is going to join us at 5 o'clock, and he was the one that asked the question that we said we would ask first, which is, you had time to reflect, you took the weekend, you said there would be changes. Is there changes, or is everything kind of status quo? And he basically said, now's not really the forum for this, but he did not come out and say there would be any changes. He was then asked to clarify if the play caller would be changed. He said, no, Kevin would still be the play caller. But we'll get John's take on it. He'll join us at 5 o'clock, and Jeff Mosher's take on it for Football at 4 next. And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. That's where we are today. What it was like in here on Friday. I got to imagine it was pretty packed on Friday. Black Friday, which turned out to be a black day for the Eagles. They were wearing all black, and it didn't help them out. They got gashed 183 yards before contact. Bears running backs ran for a total obliteration of the defense. We just heard from Nick Sirianni, Jeff. He was asked if there was going to be changes. He said, well, I don't really want to play our hand anything. The follow-up question was, to be clear, are you changing the play caller? And he said no, essentially. Was that what you heard as well?
I heard him say no. Yes.
No.
I heard him say he's not changing the play caller.
Okay, let's start with this. Should they be considering this? I mean, is this just like, come on, guys? Like,
yes, absolutely. But
you think they should change the play caller?
I don't think at this point it could hurt, but I don't know how much it could help either. Depending on who's calling the plays. Nick Sirianni, Scott Loeffler. Like I think sometimes you make it. You know how like in baseball they fire the hitting coach, and then it's like you made a statement. You sent a message that everybody better start picking it up, or else their what might be on the line, right? That's really the result. It's never because you really, really think the hitting coach stinks. I mean, maybe you do in some situations, but it's usually because you have nowhere else to go. You need to make.
No, I think there's a lot of people that think Kevin Long swings the bat.
I doubt it. But it's funny; those people will not. Did you notice how well Schwarber has improved his on-base percentage and batting average? But then when somebody else slumps like Castellanos, they still blame Kevin Long. So the point is, I don't know who they give the play calling to, whether it's Sirianni, Loeffler, Jeff Stoutland. I don't know. I don't think it's going to get better, but sometimes a fresh set of eyes. Look, Mike, there's three things here, right? Change the play caller, change the quarterback. You know option B ain't happening, right? So at this point, option A is a potential, or you just stay with option 3, which is just keep doing the same thing with what you got.
So, I mean, I agree. They don't have really an option here. They don't really have anybody to turn to. But how does that reflect on Nick Sirianni then? Because I contend, like, this was the wrong – why I don't think he's number one maybe on the list. I think this is a whole convoluted problem. But Sirianni, the root of the problem is hiring a guy that really shouldn't be in this spot anyway. This is a team that went to the Super Bowl, and they basically said, hey, let's get a guy who's never done this before and put him in charge. You backed yourself into a corner that if it didn't work, you have no place else to go. So is this a spot where Jeffrey and Howie get involved with this decision?
Well, they have in the past, and so it would not surprise me if somebody intervened somewhere and said something has to change just to see if a change makes a difference. Now, this is a little different because this is a guy who's now been to 2 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl, right? I mean, with Doug, he had won a Super Bowl, and then things started to regress a little bit, and then his hiring practices had come under question. But I don't really think that Jeff Lurie looks at the situation and cares what's been won. I think he just cares about what the product looks like now, and it does not look good now, and it hasn't looked good for 13 weeks.
It doesn't, and it doesn't seem to be improving at all, and it doesn't seem to be changing at all. It just seems like they keep trying to do the same things. They're not trying to say, hey, this isn't working, let's see if we can do something different. When you look at the run game, this run game's not getting better, right? There's no magic change to this run game. Do you see, hey, if they tried to do something different in the run game, it might work?
I would be curious, if all, and I still believe this. I don't think Saquon's slower. I don't think he might be a little bit more tentative and reluctant as these weeks have gone on because he's pressing, but I don't think there's anything physically wrong with him. However, it may just be a good idea to give some more carries to Tank Bigsby and Will Shipley because A, the defense may not think it's coming. B, maybe you get a little spark by 2 hungry running backs, and maybe that's all you need to help you out. This whole offense does not need to be resurrected from the bottom. It's getting close, but my point is it's never been a prolific offense for a season. It's been prolific in short stretches, right? And important games like the NFC Championship and Super Bowl. So all you're looking for is to try to bring a little bit of a spark back into it. Crawl before you walk again. Try to get yourself a few more sparks, and maybe those two guys can provide it.
That being said, the offense, obviously big problems. Petula's getting a lot of slack. I mean, he's got signs up out on Patterson Avenue now, Fire Petula. I mean, this is a new level of creativity where you got the workers involved here. I don't know, are you putting him at the top of the list? Do you put Sirianni above him? Or do you look at the players? You look at Jalen Hurts and say, hey, listen, he just did not play well either.
It's funny how we weren't allowed to talk about this when they were 8-2 because all they do is win. But, even though we've been talking about this all year long, it's okay to talk about it now that they've lost 2 in a row. Very interesting how the comments on YouTube and social media change when you actually tell somebody it's raining when the water is already falling from the sky. Instead of when it's just really cloudy and you can tell that it's going to rain. I think that it's unfortunate for Petula. I think that you've made somewhat of a fair point. I've sort of resisted your idea or your point that you've made all year that you can't hire a guy with no play calling experience for a team that's Super Bowl ready, because I think that there are probably examples of first-time play callers who've had a lot of success. I mean, you can't exactly tell when a guy's ready or not ready, but there's no denying there's nowhere to go to, like your point is. So maybe this is where
it's okay to hire a first-time play caller if you've got some veteran guy who's the quarterback coach or the offensive consultant or the pass game coordinator who's, Tom Moore, who's just hanging around, and you're like, hey, man, I know you're 85 years old, but, you've done this before. I mean, somebody to that extent, if he's on the staff. This team doesn't have a guy on the staff qualified to call plays. It's unbelievable.
It seems that way, Mike. It really does. They're turning the ball over now at a little bit higher of a rate that they were before, and that's obviously not helpful either. The tush-push turnover. I feel like they're just everything that can go wrong is going wrong for the offense that already wasn't performing well. So
how much is this, though, that the players lack confidence in the play caller?
I don't think any of it is lacking confidence in the play caller, honestly. I mean, there might be some skepticism because whenever you lose, there is. I think that let's separate the play caller from the actual offense. I think that might be more of it where people are really skeptical. The just ridiculously simple offense that they've run for years now, that teams get to see more and more and more all the time is probably the bigger issue for the players than the play caller itself.
Well, I mean, and that's another, this thing has been bizarre, right? You got Sirianni, who was the play caller when he got here, 7 games. And I went back and looked at those 7. He was throwing the ball 40 times a game. I mean, it was crazy to not think that he could at least lend a hand here, and maybe. But he doesn't want to do it for whatever reason. Is it because he doesn't want to step over his bounds to his buddy here? I mean, why do you think that Sirianni doesn't see what's happening here and step in? Because this is getting eerily similar to what happened a couple of years ago when they did make a change. Is it because they made a change a couple of years ago and that blew up?
Yeah, I mean, and listen, just because Nick Sirianni said no changes are going to be made doesn't mean no changes are going to be made. Like that, he didn't announce to the world that he had stripped Sean Desai of his third down play calling, and he didn't even announce to the world until it was already discovered that Matt Patricia was becoming the new play caller. So I remember, this is Nick Sirianni's offense anyway. So whether or not he's making the play calls, he's on the ear, he's on the headphone. My point is he's as much a part of it as anybody else.
Was this okay? We always hear this is Nick's offense. Was this offense what Kellen had to run last year as well?
Yes, he just had a running game. The route concepts are not all that different. Maybe Kevin had a better feel at times to call the plays that are being called now at different times. I don't know that only inside the building would know. But let's be fair to Kevin Petula. He has had zero running game. Game.
I give no envy to being a play caller where half your playbook doesn't work.
Right. 3rd and 8 is a really tough down in the NFL. I guarantee you that the rate of conversion on 3rd and 8 is pretty low, right? Probably like in the 30 percentile, if not 20 percentile. But when it was 3rd and 8, he had a really good play call to get Devontae Smith wide open. And, maybe the wind was an issue or the communication on the route. I'm not saying this just to put it on Hurts. I'm just sort of saying this to say just because the ball doesn't go to guys doesn't mean again, it's the same offense, but they have figured out ways to scheme guys open, and sometimes the guys just don't get the ball.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown's been telling you that for all year long.
Yeah, well, and like A.J. Brown had another good game. I mean, so he's having a bigger factor, but it doesn't seem to be working because they can't run the ball. I mean, that's what it's coming down to here. They can't run the ball. That whole part of the offense has completely been taken away here. So you wonder if changing the play caller really changes a whole heck of a lot here.
That's exactly my point. Like, who's doing what to this offense? I mean, that's I feel like we'll struggle with this until one of two things happens. One, the Eagles figure out a way to rediscover their running game, or two, they overhaul the offense at some point if they feel like they can. Well, and this does invite the Jalen Hurts conversation. Can Jalen Hurts function in an offense that is way more complex, has a ton more motion? Could he function in a Kyle Shanahan type of offense? Only we don't know. I mean, obviously, I think that the people who coach him don't believe, and maybe even he himself doesn't want all of that, and he's fine with how the offense is. He certainly echoes that sentiment when you hear Jalen Hurts speak. He just thinks that what they do needs to get better, not necessarily drastically change conceptually.
Yeah, and ultimately here, I think people want changes for the sake of change, and they're trying to blame somebody. Patula seems to be the easy guy. The offense isn't working. And because they have so many talented players that were here on a team that won the Super Bowl, it's not like this offense is brand new. Like the defensive side, okay, we lost Sweat, you lost Milton Williams, you lost Darius Slay. You could make an argument as to why that defense might struggle, but it's not. On the offensive side of the ball, it's like you won the Super Bowl with the same group of guys, and the only new guy really besides Steen is the play caller, and therefore he's getting all of this. But why is this offense so different from the offense we saw a year ago? The offensive line's not any good.
Well, I mean, that's an issue, but we've come this far, and Dickerson has stayed healthier. Juergens is back. Like, the Bears have had offensive line issues. The 49ers run the ball really well. They've had offensive line issues. At some point, it can't just be the offensive line is banged up. There's something else, obviously, going on with the offensive design, the run game design, how the defenses are playing it, that it can't just now all be offensive line, because the protection has been really, really good. So did the offensive linemen, are they so banged up that they can't run block, but they can pass block really well? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I do believe early on that was a big part of it, because we saw it. We saw that Cam, and I do acknowledge that is still part of it. Juergens just doesn't have the same fluidity right now. Maybe next year he'll get it back, a year removed from the surgery and all. Same thing with Dickerson. Lane Johnson's obviously not playing, so that's a part of it, but it can't be the only reason that they can't run the ball.
What'd you think of the game Hurts played and the way that he's played the last couple of weeks in the role of this offensive struggles?
Man, the Eagles gave up 281 rushing yards, and we are 14 minutes into this thing. We haven't even talked about that.
I did open this segment with the 183 yards that they gave up on defense before contact. Before contact.
Right. And I have a theory on what might be going on with that, but I'll answer that first. Jalen Hurts, he's going to say he's a robot, man. He says the same thing every time. So, I do feel like he's owning it, but at least verbally. I'm not sure how much he's owning it behind closed doors and on the practice fields and on the playing field. He didn't have a great game. Neither did Caleb Williams. And that's either because both of them tend to be erratic when they pass the ball, or that the wind was really, really bad. And I could believe both.
All right, let's look at this defense then.
All right.
183 yards they gave up on the ground before contact. They just got pushed all over the place. And you're watching that game, and I think everybody's takeaway is, man, look at the creativity in the run game there. They're getting guys pulling, and things are just moving and shaking. They're all over the place here. Why the The Eagles' defense to me is hard. They got gashed by Dallas. They got gashed this week. They're giving up like 500 yards in the last 2 games here.
Yeah.
So is the defense just been on the field too much? Are they getting asked to do too much? Or are they starting to wear down a little bit here?
Well, I mean, that's not an or. That's a hand in hand. They are on the field more. The offense leads the NFL in 3 and outs. It's got a terrible third down percentage. I did some digging into the stats today. I have a story up on Philly.com right now. People can read more about it. But the Eagles have played, I believe the number was 69 more defensive snaps this year through 12 games than last year, which is not a negligible number. 69 more, divide that by 12. That's like, about 6 snaps more per game. But, Mike, they had a 4-man D-tackle rotation last year. This year, they have basically a 3-man rotation. Byron Young was only playing about 20% of the snaps going into that Chicago game. He wound up playing a lot of that game because he had to, because they were on the field so much. But if you look, Jalen Carter, his snap count from last year to this year, about 84%, 85% this year. Okay, but look at the difference between Jordan Davis and Moro Ojomo. These guys have seen their snap percentages nearly double from last year to this year. They are playing way more snaps. And as people will see when we do Inside the Tape with Greg Cosell this week, when we do the defense version, you'll see Jordan Davis, Moro Ojomo getting driven back, Davis standing up again, playing high, as it's called, losing his leverage. I've always liked Ojomo more as a pass rusher than as a power point of attack player. I think Milton Williams was a little stronger, a lot stronger actually in that department, more built for it. So it's not that I think these guys are bad at run defense, but if you're putting them on the field twice as much, they're going to wear down twice as fast, right? And these guys, and Vic Fangio is not a believer in a whole lot of deep rotations. He plays, just 3 or 4. Look what's happened to Josh Uche, who was doing a pretty good job, but ever since they got Jalen Phillips and Brandon Gray, you almost never see Uche on the field anymore. Look what's happened to Jahad Campbell. He didn't play a single snap the last game. So Vic is not a high rotation guy, and he's only really playing 3 DTs, and 2 of them are playing a monster amount of snaps compared to last year. So yes, I do think the offense, we're blaming the offense for everything. We might as well blame the offense for the defense too, because defense has been on the field too much.
And listen, they had some injuries. You got Sidney Brown out there. What was,
the tackling was terrible.
Yeah, I was going to. And not only was his tackling terrible, they seemed to be targeting him. And, when we do draft talk and you hear about fluidity in the hips, there was Exhibit A of lousy fluidity in the hips. I mean, he got turned around, and it was embarrassing for the way that that's one when you see the tape on Saturday, I guess, after that game, that the coach is saying, "What the heck were you doing here?" But his insertion instead of Makuba, I know Makuba didn't seem to be making a big impact, but I think Sidney Brown being out there was definitely noticeable.
Yes. We had not mentioned Makuba's name a lot over the last 4 weeks, which is a good thing. He wasn't making mistakes. He was playing the defense the way it should. He was coming downhill, making some really good tackles. So it's a big difference when you have to go. And in fact, I think Marcus Epps might be able to be healthy this week or come off of IR. It would not shock me if Epps was ready to play, if he wound up getting the shot over Sidney Brown.
What else we got on this disarray of things that you could put onto the list here? The defensive line had a rough day at the office too, and you talked about that. But where are the linebackers here? Where are those guys?
If you're looking for if you're kind of looking for like what else can go wrong or that's going under the radar, the Eagles lost another front office member. Obviously the report that Dave Caldwell is going to the University of Florida, and that in itself is not like the biggest deal in the world, but. You go back to last offseason, they lost 2 or 3 guys. They lost 2 guys to the Raiders, right? They lost Anthony Patch, their senior director of scouting. They lost Brandon Hunt. They lost somebody else to another team that I can't think of at the moment. But, you got to wonder why all the success, people leaving the front office. It's one thing if they're taking better jobs, and maybe in some cases they were. But, it's always been – you want stability there, and – now you're looking at a little bit more instability in your front office.
Well, they'll get ready for Monday night. Chargers, who have now Justin Herbert with a broken hand, who's probably going to try to play in the game with the busted hand here. Do you think that there will be a change made for that before that game?
I think something different will happen before Monday. There will be some kind of, whether it's personnel related, whether it's coach caller.
Well, where can they make that's the one thing. You're evaluating all the changes, Nick. Where can they make personnel changes?
Well, I brought up the running backs. I think that's an easy area where they can just say, hey, let's give these other guys more carries, see what happens, just tell Saquon to rest up a little bit. Obviously you can change if Epps is healthy at safety. You can, and we'll see with the play calling. You'll know. Remember everybody caught Dan Campbell on camera calling all the plays a couple of weeks ago? So it'll get out if there's somebody else getting more involved in the play calling.
All right, Jeff Mosher, PhillyVoice.com. You can read all his observations on this game. What'd you think of the 2-point conversion? That was a whole nother. That thing would have been scrutinized a lot more had maybe people not been so mad about everything else.
Yeah, so I didn't like it, but I've heard many and talked to many people on both sides of the argument, and I feel like I'm in a position where I can understand the other side of the argument. Because the problem with these arguments, Mike, is there's no definitive outcome. I can't tell you that if he had kicked the extra point instead, that they would have had a better shot of winning. I can't tell you that they had a worse shot of losing. You just don't know. So it's just the problem with the analytics part of it is that analytics are all based on what the league average is and doesn't really take into context what your team is doing in that moment, your personnel, your injuries, your situation, the wind, all of that. So I can understand why you don't go with the analytics route every time, or why, if you're just married to it, you do. So
listen, I totally understand what you're saying, and a lot of times I say, listen, they go by the analytics. That's what they go by. In this instance here, if you're the coach of the team, don't you want your players and the other team to have more pressure on them knowing it's a one-score game as opposed to a two-score game with 3 minutes left? I mean, that just seems like
very valid argument for that. I respect both sides of the argument.
All right, check out Jeff and the guys over at Inside the Birds, the new podcast recapping this game. You can check it out on all podcasting platforms. Thanks, Jeff.
You got it, Mike. Take care.
There's Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Jalen Hurts, 33% completion versus the blitz, lowest in a game by any player since Ryan Tannehill in 2022. Not good when he got pressured. He had a bad day at the office. The run game thing that Jeff brought up, can they just simply add some layers to the run game by using guys like Tank Bigsby? I said last week, at some point you got to do something different. There's not a lot you could do different. You're not changing Mailata. You're not changing Dickerson. You're not changing the center. You're not changing the guard. You're not, you don't want it. You're not changing the offensive line guys. You're not changing Brown. You're not changing Smith. You're not changing Goddard. I like Jeff McClain's question about why you keep using Calcaterra as a blocker. He's terrible in that role. That's something you can change. But ultimately, what can you change? You can mix the backs up and just give different looks. These guys run differently. They do things different. They hit the hole differently. These teams see what Saquon Barkley does. He's the only guy that touches the ball back there. You just saw Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift go for over 100 yards apiece on you. So maybe there's a way to tweak the offense a little bit by just giving the defense some different looks. That might be a way. I don't know. John McMullen at 5. When we come back, it's the Nuggets. Nick Earnshaw is back for this edition of Nick's Nuggets on the Sports Pass live on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
On 97.3 ESPN.
All right, don't forget Monday Night Football tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Giants and Patriots, not a great game, but Patriots trying to hold on to the number one seed. The AFC got wild this weekend. Got wild and crazy. You got Jacksonville now in first place.
Yeah, how about Indy? They were a 1 seed at one point. Best team in the NFL.
Josh had them number one in his Fine Five, I think.
Yeah.
Is that accurate, Henning?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Now they might not make the playoffs. They're in trouble. Sauce Gardner hurt. Daniel Jones hurt.
I had the Colts number one for a couple weeks. This past week I had the Patriots. So.
You did have the Patriots number one. Then they'll lose to the Giants tonight.
Even Buffalo's like not even fun to watch right now. That game was awful yesterday.
All right, let's bring in the Nuggets. Last time we saw Nuggets was Wednesday at the Maynard's event, which was packed. Record crowd at Nuggets. Did you know that?
It's muted.
Nuggets is muted.
Oh, there we go. You got me now? There we go. All right, yeah, no, Maynard's was a great time, 99 bottles. We had a lot of fun that day, giving out the prizes. We got the Eagles chant going. That was a lot of fun. Didn't end up working because they got shellacked on Friday. Absolute disaster. Got to help out with Josh's show on Friday. And then we got to react in the locker room on Saturday after that dismal display, Mike. And that's where we'll start Nugget number one because let's get into it. Let's break it all down. Listen, you put out the poll question today regarding the Eagles. There's been so much talk regarding Kevin Patullo, Nick Sirianni, and you even had and I heard you at the top of the show talk about this, that there was on Patterson Ave, one of those detour signs, the electric sign saying fire Kevin Patullo. You had the chants on Friday. They're everywhere. And you put out the poll question, do you believe the Eagles could still win the Super Bowl? It's looking like 2023 all over again. I am with the 75%ers. I am out on this.
Wow.
Me too.
I'm out. I think when we go to Radio Row this year, it's going to be a different team. It's not going to be the Philadelphia Eagles and the Chiefs. They're not going to be in it either. So I'm with them as well. I want to touch on the Patullo stuff here in the Nugget number one, too. Nick Foles brought up a very, very interesting point to the whole Kevin Patullo saga. All right, I want you to take a listen to what Nick Foles had to say about Patullo's background from seeing the field from the box versus field level. Take a listen to this first soundbite.
Kevin Patullo, I was looking at his history, and this is, there might be some minor changes, but from what I picked up was being a passing game coordinator, his role was to be in the box, to be in the booth, to oversee what is happening on the field from a up above perspective, not being on the sidelines with the players and feeling the emotion from the sidelines. He was in a controlled environment to see coverages, to see plays, to make recommendations in the passing game in his career in Philadelphia up to this year.
Now, I want to play a second piece of audio from Nick Foles. He goes on to say why he might be better off, like Vic Fangio calls the plays from the box. Maybe KP needs to do that. Take a listen.
The answer right now is little micro changes to make guys more comfortable in their position. So I think Kevin Patullo's first thing needs to go from get out of the sideline, get away from what's going on, the emotions, because that could be clouding your vision with play calling. You have a different perspective from the sideline. You can't see the coverages as they're forming. You can't see the defensive alignments very well. You can see it on the tablet afterwards and sort of make predictions. But when you're up in the box, you can see it as the drive is going on, what they're trying to do. And you can see the concepts forming more clearly. And that is what you have been trained in since 2021 to sit in the box.
So, with that being said from Nick Foles, listen, I'm a fire Patullo guy. I've been for weeks and weeks and weeks. However, if they're not going to fire him, and we heard Sirianni today, they're still evaluating everything, but KP's still the play caller. You got to change something. Is this a minor change that maybe couldn't make that much of a difference for the Eagles going forward? What do you make of it, Mike?
Listen, I don't think they could fire Patullo because they don't have anybody else to go to. So with that being said, you got to try something different. And if it means just moving him upstairs to see if he can see the game and the coverage is better, then I'm all for trying to do something different. Look, if they ended up, they're not going to fire him. They might reassign him, do something different. Maybe someone else calls the plays. He's not getting Sean Desai didn't get fired. He just basically got reassigned.
True.
So just say, listen, whatever you were doing in the past, let's go back to that. Go back upstairs, pass game coordinator, blah, 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 blah. But someone else is going to call the plays. That being said, they don't really have an option to call plays other than Nick. And Nick has really been hesitant to do it because he wants to be able to manage the game. He wants to be able to kind of be involved in everything. And I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is they have no one else on the staff that they can go to in this situation.
They do have Scott Loeffler, quarterbacks coach. They do have Parks Frazier, who is the current passing game coordinator. And they have Jason Michael, who is the tight ends coach. All have either called plays at the college level or the NFL level. So they do have options on the staff with guys with experience. That is true. They do have guys on the staff who have called plays in the past, whether it's at the college or NFL level. They could go that route, or they could go the Sirianni route. I highly doubt that would happen. But if you're not going to change play callers, could this little change, if you send KP to the box and say call plays from up there, Vic Fangio does it, other coordinators around the league do it, could a small change like that so we can see the entire field maybe make a difference? Because something's got to change. Something.
We do see a lot of play callers on Sundays.
Joe Brady for the Bills does it.
You see them in the booth. They show the video, the guy in the booth, and it happens. So, yeah, I mean, if that's something that might help him out to see the game a little differently. A lot of these head coaches, though, that call plays, they're all standing right down on the field. Sean Payton, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, all these guys. They're all on the field, most of these offensive obviously all the head coaches are on the field. They're not upstairs calling plays. But if that's going to be a change that might do something, you got to take a chance. You got to do something different. You got to say, hey, listen, we're going to see if we can move you upstairs if that can help you out. If you're in lieu of making a change, because quite frankly, the options you gave me, Parks Frazier,
Scott
Loeffler, the other guy, Jason Michaels, they're not real options. I mean, those guys. Which one of those guys called plays at the NFL level?
I believe it was Loeffler.
I don't think any of them have.
None.
None. I don't think any of them called
Loeffler's background is as a quarterbacks coach in the NFL, not as a play caller.
Yeah, I don't think any of those guys have been NFL play callers.
I'm pretty sure they have.
I'm pretty sure they haven't been. Maybe in high school or something.
Well, Loeffler called the plays when he was at Bowling Green as the head coach.
Yeah, that's why I said college or NFL. They've called plays before.
I would say not in the NFL. Some of these guys maybe at the college
not in week 14 of the NFL when your team is free falling.
Not for a team trying to go to the Super Bowl.
I'm throwing the options out there. I'm throwing them out there.
Well, and listen, I think we all know that the options stink. That's the problem.
Yes.
And this is where I feel like Sirianni backed himself into the corner here by hiring a guy who had no experience and then added no one to the staff that could be a consultant or somebody that could be like, hey, guys, I can work and help you in this situation.
And also, Parks Frazier was the interim offensive coordinator with the Colts in 2022. So they're very limited, just saying. But they have called plays at some form.
There isn't a Matt Patricia on this staff where you could just fall back to and put him in charge. So, I don't know.
I don't know what you do. I mean, this is why I think Nick Foles, retire number 9, by the way, retire number 9. I'm going to still say that. They need to retire his number at some point here. Making a good suggestion here. The first Super Bowl MVP in Eagles history. I haven't heard this one. Maybe it could make a difference. If he's seeing the entire field, he's seeing the entirety of the offense, what the defense lining up, something's got to change. If you're not going to make a change of play call, you're not going to fire the guy, you're going to keep him around, Sirianni's not going to take over plays, etc., then guess what? Do something. Put him in the booth. Whatever it has to happen, go for it, because something needs to change. And you mentioned it earlier, Mike, and I'm in agreement with you and Pete as well. They have lost total confidence in the guy. Total confidence. You could just tell by the body language. Now, A.J. Brown had a nice day with some empty stats at the end there, but it just doesn't feel like there's a confidence level in the play calling or the scheme.
Well, you wonder, too, because as Foles pointed out, Petula had always been upstairs. Why he made the decision to move down to the field? Because one of the roles that you have when you're upstairs is you're the guy that says, hey, I'm seeing the coverage from up here. you're down on the field, you might not be able to see it because Kellen Moore, Shane Steichen, I believe those guys all were down on the field.
Were.
I don't remember Steichen
Yeah.
and Kellen Moore being upstairs.
Yes, they were always on the field, guys. By the way, here is what Foles said about Kevin Patullo moving from the skybox down to the field this year.
When he was hired from within to be the offensive coordinator, he then, and I agree with his standpoint and what he said, I want to be on the sideline where I can speak to Jalen Hurts and speak to the offense, and they can see me face to face and have that interpersonal communication. I love that. I love that before the season. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's what the players were used to. And it's always nice having your coach on the sideline talk. But at this point, something needs to happen.
So there's that.
Is that just grasping at straws, though? I mean,
I feel like
that's
in
where
a
we're at.
sense-
Of course it's grasping at
Yes,
straws.
yeah.
It's doing something just to say we did something. Hey, if they came out and said, hey, we made a change, Kevin's going to be upstairs, that's going to be like,
I don't know
wah,
what else you
wah.
do. What else do you do?
It's still the same play caller and the same scheme.
So Pete,
no
hold
matter
on.
where
It's a
he's
different
sitting.
Feel,
Hold on.
but it could
So-
be a different feel.
Right. So, like, Pete, let me ask you, because you seem to be the most cynical here. You don't feel like if a guy has a
That's
point
so
of
kind
view.
of you, Josh.
Well,
It's very kind of you.
Well,
I'm sure. Was your Thanksgiving dinner okay?
Listen, you'll never meet a bad guy like this again, okay? So back to the question, which is, so you don't feel like if he was in the box, something he's
No.
familiar with, that would have a difference at all.
No, it would not. That you could see right through that.
Why?
If I was a player,
if they're
you
not
could see
going to
right
do
through
anything,
that.
they're not going to change anything. This could be a minor change. Who knows? It could make a total difference. You
that's
gotta
not
try
a big enough
something here, Pete.
change. That's not a
They're
big
not-
enough change just to
but that's
move the
the
guy
problem.
up 3 levels of the stadium.
You're the guy who wants the hitting coach fired.
No, I don't. I'm not that. No, I'm not that kind
Well,
of
that's
guy.
the equivalent, though, isn't it?
Gone.
But you can't tell me that just because the guy moves up 4 levels into the stadium,
I don't think it would help.
it's going to do anything.
I don't think it would make a big change. Do I personally think? No, I wouldn't. Would I be against them trying it just to say, if they're not going to change the play caller, if you're going to change where he calls the game from, do I think it's going to work?
If they put up 30 on the Chargers and he's up in the box, that's the reason why?
The theory of, hey, you can see the game better from up there. My point is, all the coordinators, generally, most of them head coaches or high-profile guys. I mean, Shane Steichen, everybody calls the plays on the field. So to say that you're going to send this buffoon up there and all of a sudden he's not going to be a buffoon
Right.
is ridiculous. But I wouldn't be adverse
Change
to
the
them.
route concepts. How about that? Can you do that?
I wouldn't be adverse if they came out and said that's what they're doing, they would get crushed for it.
Well, that's why you just do it. Just do it.
Except
And
for
you-
the fact that Nick Foles said it, so therefore
Hey,
it must be okay.
Nick Foles called Philly, so he's a good play caller in my book.
I mean,
I'm surprised we haven't heard hire Nick Foles to be the coordinator.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen that on
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah, I mean, listen, anything. You got 22nd in passing, 22nd in rushing, 18th in scoring. I mean, it's a disgrace. They got to do something, Mike. We're reaching here. We're trying. Nick Foles is pointing out he's better in the booth. I mean, just throw him up there. Why not? If you're going to keep him the play callers, throw him up there.
I'm not arguing with you. Go ahead,
I
throw
know,
him
I
up there.
agree.
Do I think it's going to work?
Throw him up
No,
there.
I think we just wasted 15 minutes of everyone's time. You're going to send a guy up in the booth, and nothing's going to change. I mean, the guy is not qualified for this job right
And
now. He's in
that's-
over his head. And you know what else is the problem? He's lost confidence. That knowing that every play he calls has to be perfect because he's lost confidence. And when you're calling a game like that, when you have to be like, oh my God, I got to call the perfect play here. He's always trying to call the perfect play. And when you try to call the perfect play, it turns into the worst play. It's like that time when you're drunk in college and you're an idiot and you bet your buddy $100 when you don't have it in a Madden football game. And you're like, you're trying every time to call a touchdown play, and you can't do that. And then you lost 100, so now you try to double or nothing. Now you're down 200. This guy's down 1,200 right now.
It sounds like a
and
good
he's
movie,
trying
actually.
to win every play he's trying to score
I
a
know.
touchdown on.
Listen, I told you, I preface this the nugget number 1, and we're going to get to nugget number 2 because we're going to get there today. I preface it. I don't think he should be calling plays anymore. I think he should move on, try something different. But At this point, I don't know what you do. If you're going to keep him there,
Right, you sound like the guy that wants to fire the hitting coach.
Yeah, that's Earnshaw, not me.
I usually don't want to fire that because it's a totally different sport.
I'm saying
Totally
that's
different.
but that's what you sounded like now. Is like, I think you should fire the play caller. To hire who? Jason Michaels? I mean, the guy played left
Mark
field
Frazier.
for the Phillies.
Mark Frazier.
Someone asked a question
Great
about
poll.
Okay,
Great poll.
You're giving me
Dickerson's on the staff.
You're giving me names, but do you think Parks Frazier is qualified to run the
Right,
Philadelphia
you just said it.
Eagles?
They lost confidence. They lost confidence in him. They're in the bottom part of the league in almost every category at this point. You're trying to go win a Super Bowl, win a division, at least keep that in the realm here. But you got to do something. Something has to change.
You just mapped it all out
definition of
perfectly.
Insanity is
You
doing
just
things
mapped
over
it-
and
you just
over and
mapped it out.
over again.
Well, you'd be doing the same thing. You'd be turning the offense over to somebody who's not qualified.
Is Sirianni a better option than Parks Frazier?
The guy
Jason
to take
Michaels?
over would be Sirianni.
It would have to be
the
him.
only guy
Has to
that
be.
you could say realistically is Nick is taking the play calling over.
Yep.
He doesn't want to do it, but that's the guy. Now they're not going
I
to
know.
say he doesn't want to do it, but you're not going to turn it over to Parks Frazier.
He might be forced to do it.
Jesus.
Something has to change. And maybe you send him to the booth. Maybe you send
It's
him.
not the elevation, okay?
It could
You
be
know
the
what has
elevation. I don't know.
You know what has to change? The execution has to change. You got guys open,
Everything
you
needs
got to
to
connect
change.
on them. When you got guys open, you got to make the throw. You got
I
to make
agree.
the play. You can't get called for penalties. And if those things change, we might have different conversations.
Listen, I tend to agree with you. I thought Jalen was awful. I talked about it on Saturday. You know me, I'm a big Jalen guy. He was awful on Friday. Awful. And it's everybody. But
Exactly.
they can't run
So
the ball either.
If these
but
guys,
something, you can't do the same thing over and over and
all
over
right,
again.
but okay, you just said it. If you can't run the ball and you're the coordinator, how do you call plays when you can't call a running play that's going to work?
Can't you pivot something? Do something different?
So is
change
Parks
something?
Frazier, all of a sudden the line's going to block better for Parks
You never
Frazier?
know. You never know. They could. They could figure it out. I mean, losing Lane Johnson really is a big key to this, too. And we know their record without Lane Johnson. All right, we got 1 minute. I'm getting a nugget number 2 today. I'm going to get there. Sixers last night, injury designation, back and forth with Joel Embiid. And he said he feels bad for Maxey after the game, Mike. And the load he has to handle. He knows the load that Maxey has carried. He played over 50 minutes last night, a double overtime thriller. I don't even know how they got it to overtime. That was a crazy sequence towards the end of the game with Maxey hitting the big shot. Do you feel bad for Embiid? He just felt deflated post-game.
Do I feel bad for Embiid? Not necessarily. I mean, I feel this whole situation is a disaster. By the way, it's like hard to blame the guy who basically left his heart and soul and blood and sweat on the court. I mean, he's getting blasted, he's getting hit, he's getting knocked around, he scores 40+. But make a free throw, dude. Like this game, they would have won the game had he made one. He only made one. They win that game. Instead, he misses both. That really irks me. But I'm not. It's hard to blame that guy because he leaves it all out there. But do I feel bad for Embiid? I mean, he was ruled out, and then he played. I mean, defensively, he's useless right now. And I don't know that that's going to – he can't rebound. He doesn't move on the defensive end. Offensively, you can see how much better their offense is with him on the floor. It helps – even if he's not a big part of the offense, he helps everybody else because they're doubling him. They still believe that he can – and he does. He hits shots. But it's just a terrible situation. The whole situation is terrible because he can't move. He can't contribute defensively. It's – very frustrating.
I think Embiid needs to change his game. There was a point in that game where he waved Maxey off. Late in the game, he waved him off, and you can't do that anymore. You defer to Maxey. I want all the guys on the court defer to Maxey. PG, he's kind of buying into it. I need Embiid to do the same thing. Defer to Maxey. He's the guy.
It's like, how many times are we going to see that lineup, that starting lineup we saw last night? How many times are we going to see that this year? Over, under 15?
I thought the new big three was Maxey, Grimes, and Barlow.
I think it might be.
That's my big three.
Make a free
great
throw.
big three.
Can you imagine if Embiid missed 2 free throws in that situation?
Oh, he's getting ripped.
He'd be getting crushed. And listen, Maxey's missed some big free throws in other.
Yeah.
There's times late in these games where he does rattle these things out sometimes.
Yep, there it is. All right, we got
That
2
being
nuggets
said-
today. 2
That
nuggets.
being said, Maxey was a joy to watch again last night.
Yeah, 2 nuggets today.
All right, Parks Frazier. Isn't that a television show?
Parks and Rec.
He stinks. I don't want to see him ever call a play for me in my life. Nor Jason Michaels, nor Scott Loeffletter, whatever his name
Eric
is.
Dickerson, your favorite football player of all
He
time?
is my favorite football player of all time.
Not that guy, though.
Johnny Mack, Birds, next. All right, Sports Pass Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube at Mike Gill Show for your ride home. We got so much to get into in this 5 o'clock hour. Now, Nick Sirianni spoke in the 3 o'clock hour. We said the first question should be basically worded like this. Last week you said you'd be evaluating everything. What have those evaluations looked like, especially since you have more time with the coaches, I would presume, than the players? Any changes, or is it business as usual?
I heard someone ask that question today.
It was the second question. It was asked by this man right here, John McMullen from Birds 365, and his answer kind of danced around it, John. He didn't give you a definitive answer. Now, we would get some clarity a little bit later on, but do you get the sense that something could change, or are they going to keep rolling right back with what we've seen?
For the most part, he did confirm that Kevin Patullo will remain the play caller, which is not a surprise, or it shouldn't be a surprise to people. But there's one thing about Nick these days. It's, sometimes he gives something away without saying what he doesn't want to say. So, while he kind of deflected, he did say that, we want to do all over the place scheme, everything. So he did kind of hint at there will be changes. And then later in the interview, he's talking about not, expecting doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So I do think you're going to see some tweaks, but not the change of play caller, which is, it's not in week 13. It's not really going to help you, to be honest.
Well, I was going to say everybody's kind of asking that question and trying to confirm and speculating, because he did mention that we'll evaluate everything. What else could they evaluate, John? When he says we evaluated everything, if the play caller isn't going to change, what else can they evaluate and hope that this offense? Let's start on the offensive side, because we can get into the defense too. But what else can they evaluate?
Well, I think, that word is sort of a bell, I don't want to call it nonsense, but, this is what you're supposed to be doing every week. This is what NFL teams do every week. Mm-hmm. So you look at the film, you adjust, and you try to move forward, mainly week to week in the season. This week's about the LA Chargers. So you're focused on beating the LA Chargers more than the big picture. The big picture stuff is more about the offseason, more about things like that. So you're trying to figure out what you do well, and they've been trying to figure out what they've done well. They just have a little bit more time than usual with the sort of second mini bye of the season. The first one was pretty successful. We'll see if the second one is pretty successful, but there's some serious holes with this offense, and unfortunately there's some serious issues with the defense cropping up as well. So I'm not necessarily sure that it's something you can do wholesale changes with this late in the season. But there'll be tweaks, and there have been tweaks. I mean, you go back to when they went under center more during that first bye. That was a tweak. Whether people recognize it or not, that was something they evaluated, adjusted to try to get the running game going. Going to work for a short period of time and sort of fell back into the same issues. So, again, I don't think they're going to be drastic changes, splash changes that everybody wants or everybody would be happy with, but sort of a supercharged week more than anything else with a little bit of extra time to sort of get things done versus I think going into Chicago, which they've been very bad at. If you think about their first short week, they got destroyed by the New York Giants, which was kind of embarrassing. And this short week, they got beaten up by the Chicago Bears. So I think it's indicative of they haven't handled those short weeks well. With the extra time, they've done a little bit more. But people aren't going to get what they want, and they want a pound of flesh, and they're egging Kevin Petullo's house and all this, and they're not going to get it. He's going to be the play caller.
Well, I mean, is part of this because they don't really have another option? I mean, does that come into play here? Like, if they had a guy to go to here, I mean, Nick, for whatever reason, doesn't want to do it. I'm not, like, sitting here scorning the guy because he doesn't want to do it. You know, he feels like he's strong in the role that he is currently in. But do you think it's because they don't really have another option?
Well, anybody can do it. I mean, they have other options. Parks Frazier did it for a very short time in Indianapolis after Frank Reich got fired. Jason Michael did it. He was the coordinator in Tennessee a number of years ago. Scott Leffler's done it at the college level. So they have people that can pick the play off the card, but they don't think anybody can do it better than the guy they have. So that's sort of how you move forward.
Do you like Nick Foles' suggestion to move him up to the box, that could help him?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's about comfort. Like, Vic explained that. Vic does it from the box as a defensive coordinator. If you go back to Jonathan Gannon, he'd like to do it from the field. So that's just about a comfort thing. I don't think that's sort of like number 87 on the list, whether you're in the booth or you're out of the booth.
Well, do you even believe and think that the coordinator is the biggest problem with this offense right now?
No, I don't. I think he's part of the problem, but I think there's bigger problems. I think the biggest problem, it's always players first, good or bad or indifferent. So when it's going well, the players deserve most of the credit. When it's going poorly, they deserve most of the credit. It doesn't change. And then it's Nick Sirianni's offense. So at best, you go players, execution, Nick Sirianni, Kevin Petullo. At best, he's third on the list.
John McMullen from Birds 365, Eagles. What surprised you the most about the game Friday? When you look back and say, man, I mean, you gave up the number that stands out to me, 183 yards before contact on the ground Chicago had. You look at that, or you look at what the offense was unable to do against a defense that has really struggled this year. What surprises you more?
Yeah, I think the offense, I'm kind of surprised because I think the offense is the issue from a macro perspective, the entire season, but from a micro, just that game, it's definitely the defense and definitely what you just brought up, 281 rushing yards, most by far, well over 100 more than the second worst game in the Vic Fangio era and the worst in about a decade. And then they had a game against Tampa Bay in 2015 where they gave up, I think, 282. And then you got to go back to 1973 to go back to another game. They gave up that many yards on the ground. Darnell Wright, man, just washed out the Eagles, the left side of the Eagles defensive front, time and time and time again. It was amazing. It was one of the best performance, and he deserves a lot of credit. That's the guy they drafted when they passed on Jalen Carter, and it was ironic because Jalen Carter had, in my opinion, his worst game as a pro. And they just dominated. And not only him, it was Joe Thuney, it was Drew Dahlman. They spent a lot on their offensive line, and they really performed, but it was mainly at number one, it was Wright, again, caving in, washing out guys, and really dominating at the line of scrimmage. And you just haven't seen that much recently when it comes to the Eagles.
John, the run game seems to be an issue. Is that a fixable problem, or is it a scheme problem? Is this a talent problem? This is something they've excelled in the entire Sirianni era. They could always turn to the run game. Is this unfixable?
Well, I think it's unfixable if you compare it to last season. You're not getting back to that. I mean, that's not happening. So now it's more about, can you get up to a more credible running game like it was in the Miles Sanders era or the DeAndre Swift era. Can you get to that level? And that's where they need to get. Doesn't look like they can. A lot of it, we talked about the 482 touches a lot with Saquon Barkley. How would that impact him? Well, I think it's impacted him, but I think it's also impacted the offensive line as well, as far as the punishment they took with all that work and trying to open up those holes for Saquon Barkley. And, this reminds me, and I talked about this when the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley because of his reputation. With the Giants, this reminds me of Saquon Barkley with the Giants. He's a good player, but he's not a great player. And I think maybe last year was the outlier, and this is the real Saquon Barkley that was with the Giants all those years.
Well, obviously, there's a lot of suggestions going around. Everybody's trying to find the right formula. I don't know that there one exists. Is breaking up the carries, is that on the list of things that could help them out? I mean, could they put in 8 to 10 plays for the other guys, Bigsby and Shipley?
Well, I think Shipley, you could, do more of this sort of what it was last year as the third down back, and he would take over the Kenny Gainwell role and be more of the receiving back, because you've seen some of the receiving issues as well, some of the pass protection issues. So I think that's more likely than Tank. Tank has shown some explosiveness. I know everybody's excited, but got a pretty significant history of ball security issues with Jacksonville. That's kind of why they moved on from him, and that's not going to cut it. So I'm not sure the Eagles are comfortable giving him a ton of carries. Now, if they have to, if Saquon's hurt, of course they will, but I don't think you're going to see it until then. But I do think they might have a better sort of approach if Will Shipley is that third down back.
All right, John, let's look at the issues on the defense here. 2 weeks in a row, they gave up near 500 yards of total offense. 81 plays. Now, you would say, yeah, they're on the field all day long. Is this because they can't get off the field, or are they starting to kind of show some cracks?
Well, I mean, to me, it was I kind of expected it in Dallas, because Dallas is a really good offensive team, and they're especially good at home at AT&T Stadium, averaging 34 points, 400-plus yards. So that, to me, wasn't that big of a concern as far as you knew they were going to pile up some yardage, and they held the points down to a position where they could have won the game if they got some better offense. Last week was a concern just because they couldn't stop the bleeding. You talked about it was 87 snaps, and I heard a lot of people making those excuses about the offense not extending drives and they're on the field so much. But, man, that was from those issues stopping the run was from the first time Chicago had the football. They couldn't stop them in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's look at that real quick, John. They couldn't stop them running the football, and everybody, I think, if you watch that game, the takeaways were how dynamic and creative their play calling looked. If you had play calling like that with this offense, do you think that changes anything, or do their problems up front prevent that? Because the Bears do have a good offensive line.
Well, they do have a good offensive line, and as I said, they spent a lot of money in the offseason. But, I mean, it wasn't it was, outside zone, power running game, washout, right tackle. I mean, it wasn't complicated from the standpoint of what they were trying to do in the running game. I know there were some misdirection plays and jet sweeps that you don't see from the Eagles, but they weren't that effective. They got caught. It was really just the domination up front. And again, you can watch again. Everybody can watch the film. Watch the right tackle time and time again. He was washing out the entire side of the line. and DeAndre Swift or Kyle Monangai would just simply cut back into these massive holes. It was very reminiscent of what the Eagles did last year for Saquon.
Mm-hmm.
Just these massive, massive holes that you can drive a truck through. And the difference was that, Swift is going to get 30 yards, whereas Saquon last year would, hit his head on the goalpost and go 70. And Monangai would get 25, on the biggest play. But these were massive holes. And they were all cutbacks. Just power football.
Yeah. That and of course, you're taking a look at, I thought, the passing game for the Bears was not great. I mean, so that kind of kept them in the game because they missed some throws throughout the course of the day. I know it was windy out there. But, the defense just, I don't know. You had Sidney Brown out there, too. They seem to be looking for him. He missed a lot of tackles. I mean, that shows you a little bit. I know Makuba didn't seem like to make a big impact. It didn't feel like anyway. But it certainly felt like Sidney Brown made a negative impact.
Yeah, well, they had a bad tackling day. Sidney was a part of that. I thought it was ironic because, Jihad didn't play at all. That was the first game, pretty much a soft benching. And I don't know whether it was karma or what, but, that was the worst game Jacoby's played since he's returned. He was getting washed out along with Jalen Carter.
And that's coupled with Campbell not playing any snaps at all on defense.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that kind of, the Eagles might have to revisit that, at least, go back to what they were doing and get him some playing time. It seems silly that with all those snaps, they couldn't get him on the field, especially when guys weren't playing well.
That's a good point, too.
But, yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I do think, this is one you flush because it was such a poor performance defensively. It's probably not going to happen again. And you're going to make the adjustments. And Jalen Carter mentioned something sort of cryptic about he's dealing with something, but he wasn't going to tell us. Maybe that shoulder's back, but whatever. It was very, it was a very poor performance by a bunch of guys who had been playing very well. And sometimes that happens in the NFL.
Nick Sirianni, John, said that the lessons that they learned from 2023 resulted in what happened last year, because a lot of people are making a lot of comparisons to that season just kind of falling apart and just basically no one has an explanation as to what happened that year, but it happened. And he said the lessons we learned from 2023 helped us win the Super Bowl. Is what happened in does this season feel, you're there every day, does that building feel like it's happening again?
No, I don't see that at all. I think one of the issues there was the panic and shifting away from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia, and that sort of made things even worse. So I think they're very cognizant of not making that drastic change when you don't really have time to change things from the standpoint of putting in new schemes and new directions and new things like that. That's all season stuff, as I said before. So I think they learned from that. And then you had arguably the worst defense. Now you'll say they look like the worst defense. And they did for a week, but you're not going to see that consistently with Vic Fangio. So I don't think it's going to continue in that level. And offensively, it is what it is. It's not going to get that much better. They're not going to turn into a high-volume passing team. That's just not the strength of Jalen Hurts. So they have to execute better. They have to stop the pre-snap penalties, the negative plays, all the stuff we've been talking about. Nothing's changed. They have so many negative plays, and all of a sudden when they get behind the sticks, they become one-dimensional, and that's where people call predictable and things like that. But, if it's 3rd and 13, Mike, everybody's predictable. So boring, but they got to execute better.
I agree with that, no doubt. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Come on, John, what are you talking about here?" I agree. There's plays to be made. They're not making them. That being said, do you feel that they have lost confidence in the play caller?
No, I think for the most part, everybody's kind of defending them.
Well, one of the points I thought Jason Avant made an interesting point is that he almost like he can tell that the guys have to keep going, that they have to keep going out there and defend him. In other words, they don't want to have to keep lying to people, but they're doing it.
Well, I can just give you, and I see all these things, and I get it because I think it's low-hanging fruit. I say it all the time. It's so easy. I think most people don't realize this is Nick's offense. I think most people don't realize that this is Nick's offense because he builds it around the quarterback. Again, if you go back to Indianapolis, Andrew Luck, he had a different offense. Phillip Rivers, he had a different offense, different style of quarterback. So, I think the excuses are skewed towards somebody else, and I think they don't even realize they're doing it, to be honest, is how I would describe it. And that's the quarterback, to be blunt. That's who they're making excuses for.
Well, I'll tell you, the game was Friday, so some of it's a little fuzzy. It was so long ago, it felt like it was like last Sunday, and they had a bye week that we're talking about this. But Monday night, they will play in L.A., and it was about the same time, 2023. It was a Monday night in Seattle where they made that change. You were in that room today. You asked the key question, I thought anyway. Are you ruling out that a change is made between now? Because the guy who makes a change isn't Nick. It's Jeffrey or Howie, right?
It's Jeffrey. It would be. I mean, that's the only way there's going to be a change. And if he would have made that decision, he would have made that decision. So, and I think that's a good thing when the owner comes down. Now, again, in the offseason, I do expect him to be scapegoated if things continue in this direction. But no, I don't think they're going to see a change in the regular season or the playoffs.
All right, John McMullen, Eagles lose to the Bears. They are the 3rd seed. Chicago is now number 1. The Rams lost to Carolina yesterday. That was a fun game.
And by the way, nobody's any good. So that's what, there's nobody in the schedule also, Mike. So when people talk about 2023, Las Vegas is coming in here in 2 weeks. It's not going to be like 2023.
Well, 2023, though, to be fair, they played Arizona was terrible. They played the Giants twice. They beat them once on Christmas, and that game was painful to watch. Then they lost it. I mean, they did not play like the weird part about 2023 was they beat the good teams, and then they lost to the bad teams.
Yeah. Well, but it was the collapse. If you look at that Arizona game, there were moments where the offense played well, but the defense just completely collapsed.
Oh, that game against Arizona, they were horrible. Yeah, the defense was horrendous.
Yeah. And they tried to shift in season and play a different style of defense. Sean Desai was sort of a Vic Fangio disciple. He was trying to play what they play now very poorly because he couldn't teach it like Vic. And then Matt Patricia, who's a better coach, but he didn't have time to implement his schemes and things. And he tried in season, and it was a disaster. So I would not recommend going that route.
Is Patricia? He's in Ohio State. Is he the coordinator?
Ohio State, yeah. He's going to win a national championship.
They're pretty good. John McMullen. He's brought to you by Boardwalk Honda. Check out their pre-owned and certified pre-owned Hondas online, boardwalkhonda.com. Eagles Monday night against a hobbled Chargers team. Justin Herbert, surgery on his hand, may or may not play the game. I would imagine he tries to play at least. Their offensive line has been a disaster. So this game should be interesting. Probably a lot of Eagle fans out there at SoFi. John, we'll catch up later this week, man.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Birds 365. You can check him out tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel for Birds 365. And, of course, we're live today at Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort. Now, I might be going to the Bush concert again.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I might be back in that Bush concert.
You deserve it.
Thanks, man.
You really do. You had a tough, long weekend of working nonstop.
The Thanksgiving time off is generally one of the busiest in this industry.
Just ask Aaron Andrews.
I did see that.
Yep.
All right, when we come back, we'll rip off some text messages. Got a thought on the Sixers. I heard some Kyle Schwarber stuff. All that and more live at the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
We have the perfect solution for sitting in traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
All right, 5:33, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube. Subscribe and hit the bell to know when we go live. At Mike Gill Show on YouTube, at Mike Gill Show on X. I will read off the text messages from out throughout the show today. A lot of text claiming this guy's fault, that guy's fault, what they think. And this feels a lot like 2023 where it's like, I don't know where to start. The defense hasn't played great, and that's what I was told was the big difference, right? 2023 can't happen again because the defense won't let it happen. And I never subscribed to that. It was never about the defense to me. 2023 can happen again if your offense doesn't hold up its end of the bargain. And right now the offense is not holding up its end of the bargain, which means the defense gets asked to do more. And then it can't be as good as it was because it's asked to do too much.
You got to start somewhere, right? I mean, you can't just – I know Sirianni will always say it's not just one thing. It's a collective, blah, blah, blah. You got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere.
We're going to fix something.
We'll get to some text messages in just a second. 609-403-0973. Real quick on the Sixers last night. Maxey was awesome. I couldn't help myself, though, from watching that game and thinking, are we about to go through the Iverson era all over again? And while that was fun and you got to a finals, and if you end up getting to a final, that would be great. But I'm just wondering if you have this fun, undersized.
Awesome, by the way. I mean, come on.
I'm just wondering if you had this fun, undersized point guard who scores, how do they get the help for him that they need? Now, they do have Edgecombe. They do have McCain. Right now, George and Embiid are here. But, the big picture is George and Embiid are going to get kind of phased out of this thing. They're going to be around for a while, though. Embiid's here for 3 more years. George is here for 2 more.
Can you imagine? Can you see this happening for 3 more years? The Joel Embiid, will he or won't he be playing?
Can't do it.
You can't do it.
You can't do it. It's driving you mad already. I thought yesterday was one of the biggest craziness things, and this is talking about a lot of craziness. He was ruled out on Saturday. He was ruled out. And then he played.
So when that happens, that's the doctors clearing him?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, because
how does it work? What's the process like?
That's a good question.
When he wakes up in the morning and he's sore, he reports that to the I don't understand how.
Well, because the game was listen, the game was on a Sunday with football at 6 o'clock, which is an odd time. I kind of got lost in the sauce. So, number one, let's go back to Wednesday. Okay, well, actually, we go back to Monday. We were here at Fanatics, as we are every Monday. Great spot. Come out and watch Monday Night Football tonight. Flyers play tonight, too, right?
Flyers, Penguins. Sidney Crosby in town.
That game will be on Rock 104.1. Tuesday, we were at Chickies. Wednesday, we were at Maynard's. And by the way, again, thanks to Maynard's. Thanks to everybody who came out. Congratulations. Everybody won. Congratulations to all the winners, the guy who won the Eagles tickets, the 3 guys who are going to the Sixers game tomorrow night, people that won Flyers tickets and concert tickets. I got so much great feedback from the people who were there, how much fun they had. The place was packed. I think in all the years we've done 99 bottles, that was the biggest turnout that we ever had. In terms of 99 qualifiers, the amount of qualifiers who showed up. And then the waiting list was record numbers. So that means there was about 50 people who did not qualify, who just came out and said, hey, I just want to come out and get on the list and see the show or whatever. And we appreciate everybody for that. That was awesome. Thursday, I called Holy Spirit AC. Fun game. AC ends a 7-year losing streak. They finally beat Holy Spirit for the first time in 7 years. Then on Friday, watched the Eagles game. That was the one day that I was off. Saturday, I was up in Philly. I got the call on my way to Philly to see if I could fill in on the Blue Coats game. And I said, well, I am available. I'll be in Philly. The game was in Delaware at 6 o'clock. I was in Philly till 3. I said, the problem is I don't have any clothes. The game was on CBS 57. So they said, don't worry about it. I was wearing joggers and a hoodie in Philly because I was up there for the afternoon. So they said, don't worry about it. So I went over to Delaware. I called the Blue Coats game. Now, they gave me a cool Delaware Blue Coats, like varsity-looking jacket.
Now you know, though, you could keep a spare quarter zip in your car.
I'm going to have to.
Gonna have to.
Now I'm going to have to do that. So I called the game Saturday. So I went from here to Philly, from Philly to Delaware, from Delaware back to here. Then yesterday I called St. Joe's Princeton up in Trenton. The weather was miserable driving up there. Yeah.
Awful.
So I called the game on the way home. I got stuck in the rain the whole damn time. So when I got home, all of that stuff, like I'm kind of like out of gas in terms of I'm done with everything. Then the Sixers were on. I totally forgot about that. And I said, wait a second, Embiid is playing. I just saw Saturday night that he was ruled out. Which?
He is ruled out for tomorrow night, by the way. He is not playing.
Has that already been announced?
That has been announced. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, how do you do that? The guy just played yesterday. And listen, was he an MVP, Joel Embiid? No. But people want to react to every game he plays. Oh, he sucks. Get him off the court. He rolls out of bed and scores 20. And look what he does for Maxey. Look how different Maxey is with him out there. He gets 40. Now, he gets 40 without him. But look what the offense is so much better with Embiid out there. I will admit, and I agree, he does not rebound. I feel like he's tentative to, mix it up inside there. He doesn't want to, bang down low, and you can't have that. He's got to be able to rim protect. He's got to be able to help out on the boards. But offensively, man, he is such an addition to the team. Now, him and Paul George, I thought Paul George actually played pretty well last night.
Defensively, he was really good last night.
Big difference defensively, but hit a big three late in the game. I thought they got screwed. He got that rebound. They called timeout. They didn't see the timeout. I mean, did you see Nurse call the timeout later in the game?
Oh, yeah, emphatically.
He was standing and walking out of the court with his hands up. Oh.
But PG he just knows what he's doing out there, right? He just knows where to be, knows where to go.
It just feels so weird. Like, you have Paul George on your team, and it's almost like nobody cares. Like, this guy is a star. And, it just doesn't feel like it. It just doesn't seem like he's even
he's just there, right?
Yeah. It feels like he's Dominic Barlow, excuse me. You don't look at it like, whoa, we got Paul George on this team.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like it. It sucks that you got Paul George, and Paul George used to be one of my favorite. I loved him in Indiana.
Yeah. Smooth player, very smooth.
Great guy. You feel like he almost feels like Trey Turner here. He's good, but he's not making an impact. He doesn't talk ever. You don't ever see him. There's just no connection
Barely
that he's
plays.
on your team.
Yeah. And now with Embiid being ruled out tomorrow, I mean, how long is Embiid going to be out for now? Another week or so?
And what is he out for? What is the reason?
Right knee injury management.
It's the same right knee.
Yep.
I don't know what to make of that because the left one's the one he gets surgery on. This right one's like a new one that kind of has popped up. Is Paul George out tomorrow? Now, Paul George last night said that he had back spasms.
PG and Drummond are both questionable. VJ Edgecombe, no listing.
All right, Edgecombe said his calf felt good last night. Drummond I figured something was up with because he did play.
He was in a wheelchair the other night, and then he came back to play, then he got ruled out at halftime.
Yeah, well, I thought it was surprising that he was back. That said, the Embiid thing is, I don't even know what to make of it. I mean, listen, I'm not the guy who says get rid of Embiid. You got to get rid of him because I know that it's not possible.
You can't do it for 4 more years, though. 3.5 more years.
I can't do it for 4 more months. They got to figure something out here. The fact that he played last night and he can't play again tomorrow is it's not sustainable. You got to come out and be transparent on what's going on here. He can't play? You kidding me? He's not fit to play?
He can't play or he's not being cleared to play. Those are two different things.
But that's what I'm saying. You got to be transparent. This
Right.
is why he's not playing. Right knee management just means we're resting him.
Is
right?
it just, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and to me, that's like bubble wrap until March.
And like, the team just can't be anything like this. Last night, you get to overtime, and nobody can play. You get to the second. They did play in the first overtime, right?
Yeah.
I think George left in the first overtime, and he had back spasms or something.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. It's very frustrating. And I'm watching Maxey, and I'm having – and I don't know if this is good or bad. I don't know what to think of it. You're having Iverson flashbacks. Like, you got this undersized guard who just was, like, scoring like crazy. But realistically, you had one good run with that team. That team was just, with Iverson, they never got out of the second round either, other than the one time. It's hard to build around an undersized guy who can score.
And McCain, he did not, again, maybe a little setback for McCain last night, did not look good.
No, so these guys, they're not going to be consistent over all 82. The stars are, but the secondary guys. But McCain, Maxey has turned into a star. And now, again, the thing that stands out to me the most in that game last night, obviously the Embiid being back in that whole bizarre situation.
You can't pay $50 million a year to a guy.
Well, that contract's terrible at this point.
Yeah, and that's really the number one problem with
And
him
the George contract, he's not living up to that. But that's what the NBA is. These guys get bad contracts because of the television deal. The television contract makes these guys' contracts what they are, so it's a double-edged sword that they get paid a bazillion dollars, but then they can never live up to it, and then the fans just scorn them constantly because they can't live up to it.
Because they don't want to play either.
See, and that's the thing. Does Embiid and George, do they just not want to play? I don't think so.
No. Well, Embiid you really feel for because he wants to be out there, but his body's. This is a perfect song, the sad song going to break.
I was
his
talking
body's
with
just failing him.
I was talking with I called the game yesterday with Dr. John Giannini, the former LaSalle coach, and we were talking about a couple players that were playing in that game, St. Joe's and Princeton, and he was saying it's a shame. He's like, this guy already has old man knees.
Oh, man.
And because a lot of these 7-footers, like, that's just what happens to them. They just get bad knees, man. You're 7 foot. You're running up and down a wooden floor. You're not made for that. And it's a shame because I think Joel has said, like, I want to play. I'm just thankful to be able to get back out there. But it's not that he doesn't want to play. He said every time I've had a chance to play, I go back out there. I've played with broken faces. I've played with injuries. It just is a sad story that he cannot be the player that has been so dominating at times. And that's what they need. They need a player that's dominant right now.
It sounds like they're on different wavelengths, right? And B just wants to be out there and play, and you have these other guys who want to go out there and play and win.
Well, and then he doesn't want a minute restriction, and then it's like, well, now he's not even playing at all. I don't know how it goes from last night he was out, then he played, and he played, what, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
And then the end result is today they've already decided he can't play tomorrow. They play it back-to-back on Thursday and Friday this week, too. So he's not going to play in one of those games, you would think.
Lakers in town this week. Yep.
Is it this week or next week? They have a back-to-back. They play the Bucks and like on a Thursday and a Friday, I think. Coming up, there's a back-to-back. All right, we'll wrap up the show next. Getting ready to get out of here tonight. So before we get out of here, this Kevin Petula story is unbelievable. I mean, people are just sickos. Something's wrong with people, right?
Yep.
According to police reports, Petulo's house got egged after the loss and vandalized. According to the Morristown Police Department, a video surfaced on social media. I mean, this has reached ESPN.com, by the way. You got Adam Schefter or Tim McManus writing about this. I mean, who's going to the coordinator's house and throwing stuff at it?
Yeah, just make a sign Monday morning at 6 a.m. saying fire Kevin Petula. At least that's,
I'll tell you what. When you are that crazed about this stuff.
It's what gives Eagles fans a bad rap, Philly fans in general. This kind of stuff.
Well, you wear it like a badge of honor, like, that guy's on our team.
No.
The guy's a nut and does something like that.
I am not claiming whoever did this.
So the fact that it gets to that is just unbelievable. That's a sad story.
Then you got people on social media with their jokes,
Yeah.
Did the eggs hit the house? It wasn't Hurts throwing them if they did. Eggs are very expensive nowadays. Don't waste them on Kevin Petulo's house.
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
You would retweet that? Give it a nice little like?
Yeah, I'm not a big liker.
Okay.
Or retweeter. Yeah. All right, that's about it for us. So Embiid's out tomorrow night. I can't get over that. It's ridiculous.
There is a back-to-back this week, by the way.
Yeah.
Bucks and Golden State.
Yeah. He was terrible defensively. Awful last night on the boards. I mean, I can't understand how he can't get a rebound. The man is 7'2". Get a rebound, dude. But I did enjoy watching him back out in the court last night for a little bit. Yep. What could have been, right? All right, Best of the Sports Bash coming up next. Stick around, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Yeah, Heyman.